Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of By the Numbers. I'm your host, Richard Lewis. Joining me as always does the sports historian, Duncan Torrance Shields, and also the producer extraordinaire. He does Formula One. He does everything except I hate it here. It is Sam Bainlaw Davis. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm sober.
Good. Excellent.
Doing none of those things you listed, surprisingly.
Yeah, no, I'm doing absolutely fuck all, much like myself. I mean, at the time of recording this, bit of a weird one. I just watched Newcastle get fucking gaped. Like, it was just, we just got smashed 5-1 by Spurs. So I'm kind of in like a bit of a weird mood, but whatever. It's all right, because I realized the last episode, Duncan, we were pretty downbeat, all things told. We talked about coach bans and sort of how, that's going to impact on the scene. And obviously, we talked about these Russian sanctions and the emerging esports Cold War.
It's a pretty dark episode now. You start listing it off like that.
Yeah, and then
one before where we just humorously picked apart everything Nicola Nyholm said for about
an hour. I know.
It was
It's an emotion, much like ourselves. It's very emotionally unstable, isn't it? This podcast, because also as well that one episode that episode ended on us talking about how social media just makes you want to kill yourself, and it's very, very bad. So we're not going to do any of those topics today. We're going to talk about Pro League, Duncan, because ESL Pro League has been going on. We're going to focus on Group C, Group D. If you want to know what we thought about Groups A and Groups B, there's a Deserto podcast called Pop Flash where we went pretty in depth there. Obviously, Semler hosts that one, so you can go check that out. But before we get into it, obviously, a shout out to the sponsors. Our betting sponsor, Midnight.com. I've just had a talk with them over the weekend for some new content that's coming. But obviously, for now, it is the sponsor where you can go sign up. Use my name, use the code RLewis, £20 in. They'll match that £20 for the purposes of betting on the site. And they are endemic esports people running the esports division of Midnight. So please sign up to that and support them. They're awesome. And of course, our VPN sponsor, NordVPN. Go to nordvpn.com/RLS. You can even use the code GOSPEL if you want. And you get 74% off a great product that can be used in, I think, over 60 countries in the world. So check it out. Right. As I said, ESL Pro League. Let's get into Group C. You'll have to cast your mind back. So I'm just going to pull the storylines out in like no particular order. But obviously, the big one in Group C, I personally believe, is obviously that Movistar Riders, much in line, by the way, with your kind of predictions we made on that Pop Flash. You said, that you didn't think Group C was cut and dry and that you felt there was one or two teams in there that could be primed for an upset. And you actually did earmark Movistar Riders, the Spaniards, to do it. And I've got to say, I don't think anyone had them going 5-0.
Oh, of course not. Come on.
Yeah, but I sort of agree with you. They're a good dark horse team, very much improved. They took a lot of heat for when they cut Smooya, who was statistically their best player from the roster. They said what we lose in stats, we will gain in communication by us all being able to speak Spanish, and definitely seems to be working. Now, obviously, Duncan, that is tempered a little bit by the round robin format. I'm sure you'll talk a little bit about that. But I've got to say, so far, one of the real surprises of the whole tournament.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. By the way, because I'm not a twat like other people in the industry, like I could just sit back and say nothing and just do fucking the eyes emoji on like the fucking Pop Flash episode. I could just do that all the time, couldn't I? Or to the result, which is what everyone would do if they worked for other websites in esports. But what I'll say is this. My context was I had them down essentially as the spoiler for the group. As in, I thought what would happen is, realistically, I probably thought they'd win like 2 series. They'd beat like a bad team, like Barty Astronauts. And then what would happen, in my opinion, was it would be like, that would be the difference maker if you were God-sent, Team Liquid, big. It's which one of you lost to Movistar Riders is what would eliminate you, because as you see in these groups, the trouble is, even though everyone goes in with that cutthroat triage mentality of like, you got to beat these 3 teams, probably beat these 2, it ends up meaning every match does matter, because you never know when you get upset. And somehow in this format, like I said on past episodes, it's just way easier to lose early on, it feels, if you're a top team. So I definitely think Movistar Riders benefited from that, because realistically, aside from Party Astronauts, they're the other main team that you're going to put the least amount of your time into scouting, preparing for, thinking about. Because just the other teams, first of all, it's actually a group where there's a decent amount of like parity in terms of teams that have a chance to get a top 3 spot. So you have to really focus on, I think, the others pretty much evenly, basically, if you are Gambit, for example. Like, that's the only favourite team. So otherwise, I'm looking at all these teams trying to figure out who I'm doing. And then I'll also say this. I actually think Movistar Riders is a rare case. Normally, when they say what you said from the PR thing of like, we just wanted to go back to our original language and, you know, normally that's a lie. That's usually just like an excuse that you just wanted that guy back. Actually, if you look at the way that the team is functioning, where they're all Spanish, this actually looks like it makes sense, I have to say. And the player they replaced Smooya with is basically their star player now. He's also an AWPer, so he's not actually as good as Smooya is, because Smooya was like smurfing Tato. He's pretty good though. Like within their realm, I can see where he's their star player. So the thing about Movistar Riders is they're actually a canny team. Like, I've seen them play tons of these games at this sort of level, where they're like the team above them's way more known, but they take you to a third map, or they upset you on one where you think, that should be a 2-0 easy. So listen, I would say this is an obvious example of a team. We've had this happen a lot in this format. Remember, this was also the format for the RMR that had all those wacky results last year. They are the team I would obviously assume will immediately get eliminated from the playoffs and not go much deeper or be any kind of relevant force. But mad props for the way they handle this group, though. Yeah, this is fantastic stuff.
And just to put it into context as well, because, you know, like, I wouldn't say they're a team that has like a real, you know, kind of standout player. They do all seem to go off and have their maps. But that Sun Pius, he's been really, really good. Currently, to put it into context where he's at, he's on a 1.17 HLTV rating for the tournament, which puts him at this stage level with Hunter, level with Refresh, level with Tezes, and just and just behind Yuri. You know, he's really emerged with a lot of credit. But I'll get back to the broader point just before we break down the group a bit further, and that is, if you look at the teams that have like got through, okay, and by the way, we're literally recording this as Group D is kind of unfolding. The second map's going on. We're watching that kind of happen live, but. You had Entropic get through, right, in a group with like G2, Mouse. You had Fnatic with 3 stand-ins get
massive
through.
Surprise, because obviously, people are going to see Fnatic on paper and think, that's all right. No, that was ridiculous that they made it through. Yeah.
You had
G2, for fuck's sake.
You had Ents get through and Fury atop a group, you know, pushing out Virtus Pro and Vitality.
One of the best teams in the world, yeah.
Yeah, and then here in this group, obviously, Movistar have jumped ahead of Gambit. They even beat them. So again, it comes back to this idea, the round-robin format. I know you're not a fan. I got to say, it does feel like every Pro League now, since we moved to this format, like the groups are just impossible to predict. Like, there is no conventional wisdom at all. Like, so far, if you look at the groups, I'd probably say the only one that makes any sense that you could have called pretty easy is Na'Vi topping Group D.
And even then, actually, with that whole shit they had without Life and Boom, that could have gone wrong then, but obviously that wouldn't be the format. No, this is why I say I think it is just a flaw in the format. Like, it's not like I don't think you can use this. Like, if you notice, I'm always very fair with formats, and I always say, like, I don't want to go the other way. So even though, for example, I used to love the old Pro League format they had where you had the 2 groups, like every ESL LAN, like 3 years ago. I used to love that format, but even I used to think, yeah, but run like 9 lands in a year using this. Like, you know, pick the 3 that are your best, do it with those, have a different format for a couple of others, and then you can experiment in 1 or 2, of course. So I don't mind the idea of experiment. That's why what I always bring it back to with the SL is, but this is like a flagship project, though. Like, this is supposed to be one of your main things you're bragging. Essentially, this should be what you consider one of your best formats. So not only does this not work out that well, but people remember the infamous RMR with a similar format last year. In fact, go back to any of the Pro Leagues. Before that, it was Pro League where the G2 team failed with Nico and Amanek and all those guys. Then you go back to before that, where did Na'Vi fail? Oh, that's right, Pro League. Remember that when Na'Vi was like the number 2 team in the world and magically they came like 9th to 12th or whatever. So this format does seem like it is like, it reminds me of that old thing here, you know, where they call like Afghanistan like the graveyard of empires. These fucking groups, this exact group system with 6 teams in round robin best of 3, even though you'd think it's best of 3, dude, like you got 5 chances, you'd think it'd be really sturdy, but somehow it is a fucking graveyard graveyard for top seeds. You just see it year after year after year, and it seems to always be. Here's why I find it weird. It's not that like G2 doesn't make it, but then like the next best team does. So it's like the 8th best team. No, what happens is it'll be like G2 doesn't make it, and then some team that's like 14th will be the one that makes it, and you're like, whoa, what? So that's the way I find it weird. It's like, to me, it does turn the standings upside down. So I don't want to hate on it. Like, in theory, you'd think there'd be a way somehow mentally you could prepare to make this not an issue. I'm just saying no one's done it thus far. I haven't seen any solution. And if people have never seen other round robin tournaments, like League of Legends Worlds is always round robin, and that is one of the most famous upset tournaments of all time. Yet I don't think you ever get a group stage that goes the way it should in League of Legends,
Yeah, it's really weird. I mean, it's on the one hand, like I'm just conflicted with it, because on the one hand, it's like, yeah, I look at something like this and I look at the sheer volume of games, and I think, if you play lots of games in a short period of time, that's a really good way to determine who are the better teams, right? It makes sense. Like, logically, you would deduce that's what would happen. But for some reason, when you throw together a broad spectrum of teams from, just different parts of the globe and different levels of ability, and then you put them in this format where they've all got to play each other, nothing pans out the way that it should. It just never does. I put it this way: I've been doing predictions with Midnight, right?
I bet it's fucking mega hard.
So we were doing these accumulators, right?
You have to get like 5 of them right in a row or something. There's no way.
On a day, you have 3 best of 3s, don't you?
Okay.
So it's like, bet along with our resident CSGO expert, Richard Lewis, and we'll give you boosted odds.
Oh, have you been wrecking everyone?
No, I'm wrecking myself.
That's what I mean. If they bet along with you, they get wrecked, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, fucking, I haven't got any predictions. Not one day.
Oh, not a single one.
Not a single one, bud. Like, so...
Have you tried to say fuck it and do the opposite of what you think on one, just to see?
No, I won't do that.
I know, I can't bring myself to do it. Even when I sort of know I'm wrong, I'm like, fuck it. I'm
my
kidding.
expertise.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
It's got to be right eventually.
Exactly.
But yeah, it was rough. It was just like, okay. I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, if people are fucking losing, I guess that's good for everybody, but except the people who lose. But fucking hell, it's like just been a nightmare, this group. So I don't know what it is, because it's like I say, I couldn't give you a tangible reason as to why it always happens.
Yeah, I think that's why, if you know what, I tried to make it a psychological point. Like, I don't think there's actually technically something about the format. I'll even say as well, by the way, one thing I will always mention, because you have to remember the concept of the project, because it is Pro League, and Pro League is the original league, if people don't know that, even though it was never franchised, it was the original league everyone wanted to have a spot in, and that is actually key core to the identity of being a top org in CSGO. So I will say, if you think of the old Pro League format, which was way worse, like it was like the Premier League, basically. People don't know the English Premier League. Like, the reason why they designed that format is obvious and very cynical. They wanted to guarantee you a certain amount of games. They wanted to say, even if you are the worst team in Pro League, at that time, I don't know, you get like 12 best of 2s or something, So in this case, what they're telling you is, even if you are indeed, obvious examples, looking for org or party astronauts, well, by the way, just playing this tournament might actually determine what your career is going to be like. Good news, you're going to get at least 5 best of 3s, and even if you go out, even if you lose 10 straight maps and you go out the tournament with no wins, you at least get you some exposure. So, like, I agree with that as a premise. It's just like I'm saying, it does seem to sort of queer some of the competitive results, though, or at least the narratives are kind of a bit scuffed. This is a tournament where I also think to myself, mate, I spend myself complaining all the time about the lack of shoulder content. Imagine if you tried making any for this tournament, because if people don't know, you're not going to burn that G2 interview on the first fucking group stage. You're going to save that for like the quarterfinals, but then it's going to look so stupid because the interview is going to be like, and what about how you feel about Pro League? And they're all going to be out already, aren't they? Like, so that's the problem with this tournament. It's like I say, if it was a one-off tournament, who gives a fuck? But to me, it's just, if I'm ESL, it's like, I just get sick of my Pro League product kind of always falling flat like this. Like, where are all my cool storyline? Think about it. You're going to get to the stadium, and it's going to be like a Movistar, right? Like, who gives a fuck? Come on, mate. Even though it's a cool story, there's not going to be fans for it, is there?
Yeah, but here's the thing: they miss a trick every time there's a group where things are like weird. Because it's like, what they should be doing is, right, they should have you should be able to watch the games. Like, so on the last day, right, they play all the matches together. So there can't be any like collusion
like they're doing right now. Exactly.
Yeah. So what they should be doing on those days is you should be able to go and watch the games live. Obviously, if you want to go watch the entire game from start to finish live, go do it. But they should also have a fourth stream that is like a fucking red zone. You know, like
sick, yeah,
where so everybody, you know, you bring in loads of people who may be out of the tournament for a day because everyone's been sucking them off because they're putting like, wow, Glaive is casting a game. Yeah, it's great. But spoiler, the teams own this league with ESL. The players will do what they're told. It's not like Glaive's just decided to dust off his mic skills, right? But anyway, whatever. It has been good, so fair enough. It's always interesting to get a player's perspective live in a game. What you could do is you could put them on like a red zone, you know, like you do for Sky Sports, you know, Saturday with the football. And literally, as things are developing, you know, oh, are they going to go out? Are they not going to qualify? Wow, if this map wins or whatever, you know, you start getting like pro player reactions. They can look at all the games at once and wow, you've seen a huge misplay here, and you know, you have a bit of fun with it on the last day. Now, obviously, that's great in theory. You could have a group that's already done and decided, and so that content would be moot. But they haven't really like for a format that's so full of pitfalls. The one thing I've noticed is the fans are always posting on Reddit. Have G2 gone out already? It's like now, obviously, fans are morons. I get that. But it does seem to me that they're not really telling, like, a tournament with a format that gives you loads of upsets should give you loads of compelling content.
Mate,
and
half the time, on that point you're saying about fans, it's not even just fans, dude. Half the time, even the casters and talent of the event, no joke, are sort of like tweeting fucking people from HLTV.org who are like specialists in this shit. Like, what are the chances of that? Like, you're the analyst, like, dude. If like, put it this way, spoiler: if an analyst has to do any kind of probability, like, it's already over. Like, he shouldn't have to do that. Like, he should just have to look at a match and go, if this team wins, then like that's how you do a fucking tournament, guys. Because the problem is every single one of these is like that. Like, it's like, right, so EG needs this team to win these two games and then this one to lose at the same. It's like, you know, as soon as there's like three conditions, no one can enjoy the game like that. You can't keep that context in your mind. It ruins it. Like what you're saying is the best compromise, which is you essentially would make that the key narrative, and you'd be doing it. Like, the best example of people don't know is when the Premier League sometimes ends on the last day, like the infamous Manchester City one, and then you're sort of watching a game and you're like, so at the moment Manchester United are up 2-1. Oh, we're getting word from Main Road. There's a fucking goal. You know, and then you go over and that would be like a good way to do it. Compromise. My problem is just like, again, like, mate, I even get the vibe. Do you get this vibe? Right, look, I've noticed people work with ESL. Yes, we all know the jokes. They're all ESL shills. The joke is they actually know they are, and that's why they say that to sort of temper some of you guys from saying it. It's reverse psychology, but you're all fucking school children, so it works. So yes, we all know ESL shills. By every definition, ESL shills. Even they can't actually keep up their fucking facade. Like, even they seem mildly triggered by the format. And even they, because listen, some of them are like legit as fuck. People like Yanko, listen, I don't care how much ESL puts in his pocket. He's always gonna, his facial betrays emotions, mate. And Sponge, as much as he may be, ESL shill, he also just hates things that are really inefficient and fuck up the tournament. Like, he's a fan of Counterstrike. Like, I even get the vibe when these guys are on the desk, they hate when these groups get into these like fucking tie scenarios. And even they don't know how many maps you have to win, or even better, like that mad one that did end up working out where like FaZe had eliminated Vitality but then needed Vitality to play really well and 2-0 one of the best teams in the world. Like these are just garbage narratives. Like, how are you supposed to set that up? It's just shit, isn't it? Like, even the people on the desk are sort of low-key, like just pretending like, let's get through the group stage because then the real tournament begins. They don't give a fuck about this part of the tournament, guys.
And that's what I mean. It's like that's where I think you can add some value to the broadcast. You know, if you want to create something a little bit different. I really don't understand why in these tournaments, by the way, we've never had anything like a red zone. I remember, just as a mad little esports story, when we did a Rocket League event at WSOE in Vegas, and we said we because the guy who was producing our shows had fucking produced a bunch of Super Bowls, you know, worked at Fox Sports, done a bunch of cool shit. And so he was like, listen, let's do a red. On the last day of the tournament, we had similar things where, like, you know, goal difference. I think for some reason we had goal difference in there as a factor. And there was permutations, basically. So he said, fuck it, let's do a red zone on the last day. Let's just zip around. We're not watching any of the games in their entirety. We're just going to go from game to game to game. So anyway, Psyonix fucking hated it. They hated it. They absolutely were like did not like it. But people want to watch the games, and he's like, yeah, well, you know, you're getting all the important stuff, you're getting all the goals, you're not missing any of that, right? Because you weren't. Every time there was a goal, it was saved in real time, and then we could show it to you, you know. But like, yeah, they just fucking hated it. But it's something I always wanted to do. Like, if I ever got a chance to produce an esports show, that's what I'd put together. And I think a format like this is tailor made for it because, there's, like you say, there's so many fucking twists and turns, and it goes right down to the wire in each group. Someone who didn't go down to the wire, they managed to get through. I want to say relatively comfortably, was Team Liquid. I had some question marks because I didn't think Team Liquid looked particularly strong coming into Pro League. I've still got some question marks about the roster. And as we'll get to, interesting comments from Complexity representatives about how they feel NA is weighted at the moment. But anyway, basically, they opened up the group with a deciding game, and that was if Liquid beat Big, they were essentially through for me because they weren't going to lose to Godsend, and they weren't going to lose to Party Astronauts. And, you know, I'd fancied them to beat Movistar Riders as well. The only team I really saw them losing to was Gambit, aka Players. So win over Big pretty much got them home and dry immediately. So I don't know, like, are we with everything else that's been going on with NA lately? Are we feeling? Do we feel anything at all for this iteration of Team Liquid, or like the fact we're even talking about them getting out the group, like it's a good thing? Is that sort of how the mighty has fallen?
Yeah, I think it's more the latter because I have to say, when I was looking at this group on paper, I was like, right, the obvious one is obviously you just take Gambit to beat Liquid, as you say, like that's just an obvious one. But I have to say, it's more that like it's not like I think the other teams are all fire, like Big and Godsend are kind of whatever. But it's just that, yeah, that just shows how low my opinion of Team Liquid was. That I was thinking all these games are potential banana skins minus the fucking Party Astronauts one. Like I would have said, yeah, Movistar is one of those teams where, like I said earlier, that's the condition. If Liquid lose to them, they might have scuffed it. That might be where you fuck the whole thing. So I think, listen, props to them for actually getting through this group. It looks like one of the few times so far OC has turned up in the international play. Fair play. They were waiting for that to happen. The thing is, though, like from watching some of the games, I don't really buy it. Like, I don't think some of this continues. I still think they look like a team where the pieces don't all work at the same time. Something's a bit off about the identity of the squad for me. They've got some good players, so you can win some games. But like the difference is, like some of the other people who've surprised in the other groups, I thought were much more impressive than this.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've got to be frank. OC didn't just turn up, by the way. I mean, he's like again 7th overall. You know, at this stage, at the end of the group stages. So it's like fucking...
This is where I think fans really don't know what they're asking for, Richard. So, you know, every fan, for real, loads of NA fans wanted this move, OC to this team, right? It was basically, it was even more momentum than Smoothie to Fnatic. Like, everyone was like, this guy is too good at Tier 2, he must get a chance. But here's what people don't stop and think about. That, what you've just said there, like 7th rated in the whole tournament. Yeah, he's their AWP, he's supposed to be. This is what people still have forgotten. This is Team Liquid, guys. Like, you are aware their AWP could be Ziwu if they really had the money for it, or could be fucking the best players in the world. So to me, like, I know everyone's going to be like, wow, great. Like, no, this is actually what you signed him for. He's supposed to do this, like, with some regularity, you hope. That's how they're going to become a top team. So, like, yeah, fair play's done it once. Let's even continue. It's not the greatest advert that it is the most upset-heavy fucking format we have, but... Still, you can still only beat who they put in front of you, as the old cliche goes.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, here's the thing. The problem with this Liquid team has been, it isn't even the Nitro move, it's the Shox move.
Oh, it is for sure. He looks completely lost.
Yeah,
I don't even like. Here's the other thing, right? Let's be real. Of all the players in here, right? You know when fans do that thing, Richard. Like I do actually complain about when they try and like micro read Anders' micro expressions. Here's the difference, though. They don't know Anders. That's why it doesn't work. I do know Shox. I've met him in real life many occasions. He's a guy, mate. I even get the vibe when I look at him in the team. Like he's sort of like, why am I here? What is this part of my career? Like what is this? Like I don't get the vibe. That can't be a long-term move, surely.
Yeah,
so much feels so off about it, you know.
Well, I read it because I've been reading all the interviews that came with like ESL Pro League as well, and like one of the things where like apparently the reason they chose Shox is because they wanted like another guy that could use his voice and would talk things out with the team And it's like, yeah, I don't know. Like, what about a guy that can, like, isn't in the twilight of his career, and is like gonna have to learn a very, basically, like in his late 20s, he's gonna have to learn a completely different like style of play, a different style of communication. He's gonna play with players he's literally never played with before in any context. It just, I don't know. And like, listen, I agree. That's the correct phrase. Like, he looks lost. He doesn't look like that tenured veteran, the smart, cool under pressure player that maybe they were looking for and they thought they were getting. I mean, put it this way: whatever happens moving forward with Liquid, he's the guy that's gonna go. Like,
he's the most obvious, yeah.
Yeah, there's just no way. I mean, like, you can't, and like Naf, like, he nearly went. They nearly lost Naf. By the way, not only is Naf laughing all the way to the bank, he must be watching Evil Geniuses now, thinking, oh, thank fuck. Oh, thank fucking God that I didn't go to that. But like, OC's crushing it. Elige is Team Liquid and obviously partial owner of Team Liquid. And they brought Nitro back. I mean, I haven't seen any like super smart tactical depth or anything from them, but Nitro hasn't been awful. In fact, actually, what's been interesting is the guys who've come back from Valorant have sort of, I don't know.
Lad's been half decent, yeah. Same with Automatic and EG. He's actually not even the worst fucking player, mate.
Not by a mile. Yeah. But yeah, the Shocks move, I thought it was strange at the time. It doesn't seem to be working out. But then again, I mean, obviously, look, Liquid have come through a tough group, maybe a group they shouldn't have been fancied to get through. And with that, I suppose I can pivot to the other side of the coin. I mean, remember, we've got a mutual associate friend, haven't we, Duncan? A guy called Maui Snake said Big were going to be in the top 5 teams in the world now that they added that Faven guy. And nah, I mean,
there's copium involved with that take, I have to say.
Oh, bro, but like, not only that though, it's like Big remain the most outrageously, frustratingly inconsistent tier 1 team, and it's been like that forever. It's like
that really is how they are as well. Because here's what always happens, right? I always look at the team on paper and go, that team's not good enough. So then what I do is then I think, well, they're just shit, Richard, right? They're never going to beat anyone. But then they keep beating like upsetting teams that are slightly better. And I go, you know what? Maybe I'm not giving them enough credit. Tell you what, here's some credit, Big. And then they just take that credit, shove it up their own arse and just lose the next like 4 matches. And I'm like, well, that's all the credit gone. They're like, right, time for another good game. Like, fucking hell, can I get a break here? And I use the anti-Betor company or something. What's this fucking shit? Maybe they're the real esports integrity coalition, just Big Clan. They're just here to fuck all the betting companies. Like, by the way, here's one you'd appreciate, Richard, because no League of Legends fan, remember, they don't really know about like how corrupt esports is because you're not in the game and all your shit's being banned. So I had a joke on Twitter the other day that I think straight fire, but like League of Legends fans didn't quite get it. So during this series that was going on, right, basically Fnatic, who was the favourite to win this League of Legends match, was up 2-0 and they were going into the 3rd game, right? And basically in the 3rd, the 4th and the 5th game, Hillesang, who's like one of the best playmaker supports in League of Legends, he tried to do that to close the series, but he just basically, it's essentially like think about people like Stewie 2K. If you do that style and it goes wrong, you just feed the game, don't you? You look like an idiot because you just push it all the time and you just get killed and he did that right so much and through this game, right, that like essentially as a joke, because people wouldn't get it, because in the way the match was going, you'd obviously expect it's going to be a 3-0 and it's going to be an overwhelming one. I said as a joke, like Hillesang probably just got someone murdered in a Chinese betting ganger from this game. And then all the plebs were just like, question mark. It's like, you just don't get it. That's actually straight fire, mate. Like, the joke is him actually just fucking around in that match for real actually might have got someone murdered. Like, there'll be some guy where, like, like as long as it's the 3-0, he's fine. And then they all go home happy and this fucking cunt's just feeding the whole game. That's what it's like. It's like, fucking hell. That's what I feel like we're Big.
Well, no, but like, so think about back at the Blast Premier spring.
The beginning of the year, yeah.
Yeah, so they took him out off his, right? Who obviously then go on to win Katowice after, right? They 2-0'd Astralis there, right? So you're like, okay, that's good, man.
Yeah.
That's 2 months ago. And then, then Katowice came, you know, rematch with Astralis. All right, they lost that one. They lost to Fnatic. I mean, they took a map off both. That's the other fucked up thing with them. They're always competitive. Like, you never see them get steamrolled. But they also lose some unbelievably stupid maps and some stupid situations.
That's also why, though, this is what's weird, right?
So crazy.
The more you know about their project, the more it really makes sense, though, because basically their entire project, the whole time from when God B began it in, I don't know, it was like 2017 or something, maybe late 2016, I forget the year exactly that he began it. When this whole project basically has always been about trying to be a true tactical team, because that's what God B was into, that's what fucking Legia was into, that's what Tabson is into. They've always gone this route. Well, the bizarre thing about that is, if people don't know, this might sound counterintuitive, but because essentially you're trying to play real Counterstrike using like the most high-level dynamics, if you do it half decently, it actually means that you will match up against top teams better and against pleb teams worse. Like, actually, this, in my opinion, this is an indictment of the roster they have, Richie, because the problem they have is when they go and play Movistar Riders can literally outfrag them, and they do. They just fucking style on them. Whereas the difference is, like, obviously in this team, I'd have to pick like Gambit. So Gambit, I'm sure, just plays real Counter-Strike, and suddenly Big has like a chance for a second in that game, you know. So it's probably also part of what makes them frustrating, I'd even figure, you know.
That's what's mad. I mean, because like obviously if you watch the Gambit Big game in this group, you're right. It was unbelievably close. I mean, it was razor's edge stuff. So they picked Vertigo into Gambit. They lost their map pick 2022. And then Ancient comes rolling around. That's currently Gambit's pick. And that was 16-14. So it's like, you know, the margins against the top teams.
Those are the games that trick Maui Snake. Put it that way. There you go. Those are the games he's thinking of when he makes those calls.
Yeah. I mean, and look, honestly, in the Movistar Riders one, they had like that was a double OT on Nuke. And then they got blown out on Vertigo, their pick. I mean, so that's another sort of like symptom of why Big doesn't do particularly well. Like they in their mind, they think they're gonna roll people on like certain maps that they pick. But I know I see them lose their map pick a lot, and then go and be like really competitive and win their opponent's map. I feel like I've said this exact same thing about them as well, like a year ago. Like it just, I don't know. Their identity's never going to change. They're limited by the realities that they've set themselves, which is we're a German team, we're a German-speaking team. We're looking for German talent. We're going to take all of Sprout's best players, and that's how we're going to construct our rosters. And somehow we've convinced Tabson to do it with us and not go play on an international roster, which he could do. And basically, they're at the whims of CSN, pretty much. You know, that's it. That's what I mean. Like, if their win rate's even 50%, mate. Over the last 3 months,
it should just be a fucking coin. That should just be
like,
the
literally
whole team,
coin clan. Like, just fucking toss a coin to. And honestly, that's what it feels like with these guys. But not able to get through the group here, which I'm sure they'll be disappointed about. But you know, Big are just one of those teams that are always in the mix, one way or another. I suppose I don't know if you want to pontificate too much about players. You know, Gambit. I mean, I thought they did very well to get through the group, all things considered. Kind of felt to me, and I heard some stuff behind the scenes, there was like a lot of last minute wrangling that was going on, like about whether they were going to be in or out, or what the name was going to be, and stuff like this. You know, I'm not saying there was ever a chance that they were going to pull out, because obviously they've got agreements, and I don't think ESL would have wanted that, or potentially even if they had any input allowed that. But yeah, this I was kind of more than the Virtus Pro guys. I was looking at this and going, wow, what's going to happen? Because I mean, there was also a lot of stuff. People have been talking about whether or not Gambit are just going to sell like all of their rosters to anyone who'll buy, or maybe even shutter the team. I mean, like, I think there was where was it now that I read it? Might have been, it must have been Overdrive. But yeah, that he said something like on his Twitter account saying like the Gambit lineup in Valorant and CSGO were just available to buy. And so that happened like a week.
People don't know how wild that is as well.
Group.
That is that. If people don't know, that might actually be the most cruel of all the sanctions I've seen placed thus far. Because again, esports teams have zero potential impact on the situation they are being sanctioned for. But if people don't know, Gambit is a tiny org. They are an ENCE, a big, and they have, no joke, two of the best teams in the world in both Valorant and CSGO that has come as a result of scouting and building the teams up and having the same core. And they are just going to have both teams taken away from them, essentially, through no action of theirs. Like, that's actually brutal. And again, as you alluded to, I think this is where people don't think of the context that everyone involved is a human. So their logic would go like this, Richard, but they aren't Ukrainian, so why would they have a hard time? Because they don't even know if they're going to have a job. They don't even know if they keep working for their team or whether or not they get signed. Because again, this is where fans always do this thing where you don't understand how complicated business and real life is. So you all think, well, they're a top team, so I'm sure they'll end up somewhere. And it's like, well, where though? No, but I'm sure someone will just buy them. No, yeah, but we don't know if they will though. Yeah, but it's a whole lineup. Who wouldn't buy them? It's like, no, we can keep saying that until you have a name. Like, that's what they're asking is, who will buy us? Because I don't think people have thought this through. Like, who's going to buy them? What orgs are out there looking for this team? With a Russian team, have you not even thought of that, fans? Nobody wants to sponsor a Russian right now. Nobody wants to say, hey, you know my org that's just been putting a Ukraine flag on top of all of our fucking shit for the last month? Yeah, we're just going to bring in some Russian players. Like, nobody is going to do that.
Not to mention the travel problems as well.
And then also, how the fuck do you even buy the team, by the way? How do you get the money in? Do you turn it into rubles? In which case, God knows what that is. That's like fucking trying to sell Bitcoin before it goes down or something, mate. Like, I don't think people have thought through this is going to be a very complicated situation. So, like, it's all well and good if you're like Navi. You already were remember, you're the org who just has to change the player's nationality. If you are the ex-VP or the ex-Gambit people, nobody knows. You might never play again. You might be playing in a month. Who the fuck knows? And there's a million scenarios where, like, the sad one to me would be this. If, as I alluded to, it's not like Gambit already is a massive org. Like, put it this way, I don't know specifically their salaries. It's one of the few teams I don't, but I can't imagine it could be that high. Like, I would be shocked if their salary was even like 2/3 of FaZe Clan salary or something. I would personally go for like half if I had to guess. I'm talking like, I would guess like a 10 to 12k salary. They're going to go down from that, guys. They're going to go to one of those shit orgs that you join when you're like a Korean StarCraft player and it's 2022. You just join some team in like fucking Hungary or something and they pay you like €500 a month. Like, this is going to get dark for these guys. That's why, as much as I love to watch them in the server, like, I don't know how long these teams are going to be in Counterstrike.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, and it gets even more complicated from a financial perspective because they had announced what was. I mean, no, listen, this is obviously a meme as well. Because their big sponsor they announced in February, obviously, like the start of February, so prior to the invasion of Ukraine, was Herbalife. the multi-level marketing
scam, isn't it? Yeah. If people don't know, it's not even like, oh, that sounds like it is. No, he's literally talking about that exact one. The one where they go like, oh, I see these like vitamins. And you're like, well, what do they really do? Don't worry about that. You just get 10 people under you and then they pay their amount to you. Yeah, but then do they have to sell the pills? No. They just get 10 people under them. Like, it really is one of those, like, for real. It's the ones where if you're not old enough, when you get to about 23, there's one friend in your social circle who then no longer will ever be your friend. Because they go, can I just schedule some time with you? And you go, what are you talking about? Just come round if you want. Have you ever had this, Richard? And they come round and they give you the little talk and they have all the like the presentation. Oh, it's like the worst part you have to understand, guys, is you're never interested in it. You're just dying inside because your friend's in a cult and you're like, oh, this is hurting. And like I say, you just essentially, you just like, it's like you soft block them out of your life after that. You don't say anything. You just never contact them again. It's awkward. Who the fuck wants to be involved? So yeah, all I'm going to say is if you didn't want to seem like a scam, probably wouldn't take sponsorship from them.
And I need to say, Duncan, that their business model is legally distinct from a pyramid.
Of course, yeah, exactly.
Shape, trapezoid in shape.
It just seems reminiscent if you're a layman like me, who's not versed in the law and not making any sort of legal distinctions.
Yeah. But I mean, they were sort of kind of what's the words? They were given credibility, by because they sponsor one of the top American.
Yeah, if people don't know, there's a bunch. Like, if people don't know, the original one that was the joke was Amway. Amway's also like fucking all over the place. Yeah. This is how you know, by the way, you are at the end of a fucking empire falling. Like, these companies now get to be legit and be like, as Richard says, like our lawyers would like us to state that we are in fact not a multi-level. Instead, we are a several different.
It is.
Like,
It's LA. It's LA Galaxy. It is.
There you go. Fucking hell, the Major League Soccer team.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
So I mean, they've been given all this like credibility. But anyway, so they announced as Gambit sponsoring at the start of February.
But that's done, right?
Well, I mean, they're an American,
of course,
organization sponsoring a Russian team, a Russian org in Russia with the owners that have ties to like Russian telephony and potentially the Russian state. So yeah, I'm gonna wager that deal is gonna get fucking cancelled. So I look at the rest of their partners as well, and obviously there's a layer of ignorance because I don't know what represents a good Russian sponsor or whatever.
Exactly.
I couldn't tell you, but a lot of for an org this tenured and
that's always been
this good.
Yeah. Basically, if people don't know, there has always been. I'm going to be serious now. A very weird mystery behind Gambit. If people don't know, the story goes like this: Groove. The former, he was actually ironically in Virtus Pro. I mean, it's not irony, but it'll be unusual to you people. He used to be a Virtus Pro player, and then after his pro career, he was in Moscow 5 was the team. So people might know him. They had a CS 1.6 team, it had Dossier in, but more famously, they had the League of Legends team, which obviously was like one of the best in League of Legends in 2012. And then when they became Gambit Gaming, they only became Gambit Gaming because the person who was the head of Moscow 5 was arrested by the FBI on I believe it was like mass credit card fraud, like some sort of scam, but obviously some sort of cybercrime.
He was arrested by Interpol in Amsterdam,
and he actually was for real, like taken to fucking America or whatever. And
he was held for years and then sentenced to a very long time in jail. And it turned out what he was associated with was the singular biggest credit card fraud criminal activity. Because what they did is they didn't just get people's details; they actually hacked the credit card companies themselves.
Right, that's insane.
It's on. If you go look at the Department of Justice, because here's what's mental. I've met that guy.
All right, okay.
He used to come to fucking esports, any esports event,
right?
Source events, Call of Duty events. And there's a story from a mutual colleague of mine, where apparently when he was in a hotel. And he was there and he was buying drinks and stuff. He literally had loads of physical credit cards. And he was like, oh, if that one doesn't work, use that one. And then this would come back. And then he'd go, I'll use that one. And the guy was like, the guy had about 40 credit cards in his wallet, So that didn't surprise me. But yeah, he was in Amsterdam, I think, when he got popped. Might even have been at an esports event, funnily enough, some stupid small LAN. But yeah, he got arrested McDonald's.
What happened was the same situation, in fact, happened, Richard. Everyone was like, well, obviously, he won't be able to have a League of Legends team anymore. So what's going to happen? Magically, very soon after, this company called Gambit Gaming just appears. No one's ever heard of them ever, by the way, completely out of nowhere, thin air. And magically, they're available to just take the best Western League of Legends team and one of the best teams in the world. And from there, if people know, they initially were in the ULCS and they've come all the way through to now. But here's what's bizarre. They famously even launched with a mega weird sponsor. People don't know they were sponsored famously by Pringles, which sounds like super legit. But no, this was in an era when Pringles didn't sponsor anyone. They weren't in American esports, for example. They weren't, or if they were, it'd be a one-off for an event. It wouldn't be a team that was sponsored. So all you need to know is it never ever made any sense. And I used to be friends with the League of Legends players in this team, and the joke was they used to essentially just tell me sort of no, you don't need to know why. It was there's always been some fuckery.
I've told you this.
By the way, they also used to be listed as a UK company.
Yes.
That's weird because they're getting sanctioned now as though they're Russian or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, go on.
No, but I'm sure I told you that at the time. Because that was when I was on my hot streak for League of Legends stories. I think that was around the fucking, when I ended up doing the whole fucking Move Your Mothers and all that.
Right, yeah.
So I remember wanting to find out who funded them because I'll just say this: that Pringles sponsorship was absolutely bogus.
It sounded fake as fuck. Yeah,
there's no way. They picked an org so big, but also so removed from sports Like,
think how genius it was. They were able
Yeah.
to pick Pringles, but at no point in time ever have anyone at Pringles score. Do we actually sponsor? Shouldn't we
And listen,
for sponsorship in Russia with this? No one ever even sent it cease and desist. Like, please stop saying we. No one even did it. They weren't even on their radar.
here's the thing, I don't know how the franchising for that brand,
Sure.
like, or if indeed there is any work
have no idea,
in
yeah.
Russia or whatever. Like, maybe you have to be partnered with a Russian company to sell Pringles or something weird or fucked up. Because it's like, right, so listen, I know a guy who runs a Jersey Mike's because it's a franchise.
Oh, right, yes, sure.
You know, like the Subway over here or whatever. You get the fucking license, you run the store. It's a franchise, but you know, it's delineated essentially. You have your own decisions. You make you if the store works, much like a multi-level marketing scheme, funnily enough, you make more money. So I know a dude who runs a Jersey Mike store, and he's always saying, like, I'll sponsor your shit, and you can say you're sponsored by Jersey Mike's. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that because it's your Jersey Mike's. It's not Jersey Mike's, is it? But anyway, back to the serious note. I think there's a realistic chance the org might shutter.
That's the vibe I have on all those teams. Like, say, I mean, you talked about this on the last episode, but the only real option they have is a pivot, like Russia as a country seems to be doing, where you essentially the joke is, back in the day, the whole dilemma in European history always goes: is Russia actually a European country or is it some sort of Asian country, essentially? And obviously, the real problem is it sort of just overlaps the two, doesn't it? Well, the premise is going to be, as far as we can tell in business, they're just going to become like an Asian country that's going to deal with China and fucking whatever, North Korea, all those fucking places that deal with them, basically. So it sounds like in esports, that's the pivot. But the problem that people haven't thought about is this, right? Unless you are one of the ones who just can't leave because you don't want to leave your family or something, no one's going to want to play CSGO though in an all-Asian league. Like, what, it's going to be like Gambit players against fucking like 3 of VP who stay, against Ty Lue, against who? You know what I mean? Like you could do that, but I don't think CSGO's the game, unfortunately. Like in League of Legends, by the way, you could do it like a motherfucker. Could be in some genius pivot. Like in CSGO though, it's just the end of your career. You need for pennies at that point, right?
And it's even just to underline it, it's like they got so right, they obviously have a daughter team as well, right?
Sure.
And they entered into a partnership with AS Monaco, the football team.
Oh, okay.
So again, how right, but basically, right, so the roster for that team is 3 Russians, three Russians, a Ukrainian, and a Belarusian.
That's everyone except the Ukrainian player done, pretty much, yeah.
So
because Belarus is going to be going the same way if people don't know. It's essentially sort of like aligned with Russia, yeah.
All the sanctions have been equally applied. It's
Absolutely.
just like just obviously no one really talks about Belarus.
No,
but so again, that's another partnership that they signed. I think that was only last year. So these partnerships that they've signed that look to give them some sort of financial stability and at least explain where they get the fucking money from. If I was a betting man, I would say those things are done. I mean, and then that raises the question: how can the org persist? I mean, or why?
No, you should probably mention that.
They want to.
We should probably also mention, if people don't understand, right? The crazy thing about esports orgs is, and this is what people won't believe, Richard, but it's true. They essentially, because they run off VC money, they're sort of like that famous quote. There's a line. What is it they say? Is it 1 or 2? They say that like Americans are only something like 2 paychecks not coming from being like on the poverty or whatever.
Yeah, from poverty.
Isn't it something like that? It's something like a couple of them. The idea is essentially no one's saving more than a few months in advance. Companies in esports are like that. It's why, if people don't know, that's one of the reasons that actually was legitimate as to why some of the Flashpoint orgs wouldn't put money in. Because there were orgs that went from one day, I'm going to get 5 million, to next day, my org was the people who run like a basketball fucking team. So they're like, you have no millions now. So I went from where I thought I had 5 to no millions. Like, imagine if you are the Gambit, where, as we're talking about, by the way, they're already min-maxing like a motherfucker and having teams way above their pay station. And they're going to be a scenario where this is not like, get a replacement. No, there's no sponsor. The sponsors have all gone. We have no more money. Maybe even, you might even not, and in fact, with the whole economic sanctions as well, you might, at this point, have no liquidity. You might have no actual ability to even pay salaries. Who the fuck knows, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's an uncertain future. And so it is good to see them, the players, be able to kind of rally and get through the groups. Shiro was playing lights out. They all were doing a very good job. Axial was back as well. So, we'll watch this space, but maybe they can, if it is like a last hurrah, and I'm kind of getting that vibe, honestly, for a lot of these Russian teams.
Yeah, it could be their last dance.
Yeah, for real, like an actual last dance.
One worth watching.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Not like the last dances that have been greatly exaggerated. Into Group D. This one, I mean, I just want to start by talking about the great NA shit show, because it's fucking ridiculous. So there was an interview with Junior. Now, Junior is a lovely, lovely guy. Right, I say this all the time. He's
Anytime it starts like this, fucking hell, where's this going? Come on.
Well, no, because he is gonna get shredded probably this episode. And
Seems to be the theme on the show.
Yeah,
Let's be real though. He's also got a problem, dude, which is he's like the fucking human version of Big, isn't he? Like every time you think, forget about him, he's fucking on the trash heap, and he looks half decent, like in NA, starts to gradually look a little bit better, but then he always betrays you on the biggest stage. It feels like that's just been the theme of his career.
I mean, listen, it's complete failure to launch at Complexity. If you look at his stats, listen. So I want to talk specifically about an interview, but fuck it, like I'm also more than happy to just set the table by saying, like, Complexity, right? I understand what they've done, right? They've been pretty smart, actually, in my opinion, because this is a cheap team by any conceivable metric. They've got Floppy, who come back from Valorant, Grim, just happy to still be in NA, Fang, who's on the come up, Junior, who's on the come down because obviously he just moved from Furia, JT, who is kind of like the last man standing from the South African crossover when they were briefly at Cloud9 and kind of competing in North America pre-pandemic, when people could travel and shit. And so what they've done is they've assembled a bunch. So right, Football Manager, Champ Manager fans will know what I'm talking about here. Right, in the database, if you've ever edited the database, right, there's two numbers, because there's two numbers that really matter. There's a bunch of other numbers, and that sort of tells you what players are good at, but it's all relative to these two other numbers. And you have one number, that is their current skill at the moment you load into the game, and the other number, total potential skill. The potential that they can rise to, the absolute their ceiling totally, based on what scouts feel and all the people that make that video game. Now, it used to be in old versions of the database, you could set someone's potential to -1, meaning unlimited. So it could go anywhere, they could become the best player in the world, they could plateau out, whatever.
Yeah.
And so to apply that to this Complexity team, I literally think, right, there's 3 players on this roster. I mean, by the way, Grim's had some mega series in this game, and I still think Floppy is like a low key, a very good player, and definitely a solid tier 1 player in global terms. But what they've done with the rest of them is maybe you do get that -1. Maybe Junior, maybe it was Furia, maybe it was a language barrier thing. Maybe Fang is going to be the next big North American talent. Maybe JT is going to get the team unbelievably drilled, and his tactical know-how and acumen is going to translate very well. And we can do it all, but paying them a salary that's actually nothing in global terms. And if you think about what Complexity were doing prior to this and how they got burned so very badly with just one disaster after the other, this is a smart thing to do. If you're Complexity. I don't hate the roster.
They're very shrewd min-max put out there.
Yes, exactly. Because this is an actual roster that has min-max potential. Every other roster that got assembled in the off-season was about throwing money at players who were in free agency, probably overpaying them, but hey, they're proven talent, so it's all good. And as we've seen, in some instances, it can go very, very bad, like a Zipnix. But in other instances, it can go very, very well individually, like a Dupree, who's been resurrected, but the team might not work. And then, so what am I doing now? Like Vitality. So Complexity, you can have zero expectations about this team, by the way. When you look at it on paper, you go, oh yeah, they're all a bunch of players who are too good for ESEA, they were too good for tier 2 in North America. And some of them have got like very good tier 1 experience. They've played in some of the best teams. Who knows what they'll do? And if they beat somebody, you go, wow, that's cool. And if they lose, you go, yeah, well, they're still learning. Perfect. It's the perfect team. Now, that said, that's as positive as I can be about it. Because if you actually look at the fucking games, man, they cannot reach their potential with Junior. He does not have the -1 stat. I don't know what he's got, but it ain't very good. Like I've been looking at his matches since he joined, and I counted it before this episode, but here you go. Right, I'm gonna do it again. So he's played, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33 maps for complexity, including obviously this pro league, right? And he has gone positive in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So little over half
the time, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's the AWPer.
And he's the AWPer. And keep in mind as well, like this group, he's had the luxury of playing 3-map series against Evil Geniuses, 3-map series against AGO. They played Bad News Bears, for fuck's sake. They beat ATK in the North American RMR. So I mean, the North American RMR qualifier was part of those stats. For tier 1, it's real bad. If you look at tier 1, yeah, if you look at tier 1,
it's going to be one of the worst players, I assume.
Well, so against top 5 contenders, well, no, let's do top 10. That's more fair. 0.92 HLTV rating. So it's like, listen, you're all right, dude. Like, you're a nice guy, man, but like, fuck me. And then he did this interview, and I hate this because it's like you're set up to fail. Like, Junior is a talkative guy, really outgoing, really gregarious. I could imagine him doing loads of cool stuff for an org, right? Or being a cool streamer, actually. I could easily see him slotting alongside a Cooper or a Flom. Just a good, wholesome, nice, informative, talkative CSGO streamer. That could be his future, right? Because it can't be this, not as things stand. And, if the likes of MBK getting kicked after fucking, 22 maps, and people saying Vitality are flopped after 25 maps. After 33, going fucking positive half the time. Yeah, all right, this is the new normal now. We're scrutinizing you. But he did this interview where he said Complexity are the best NA team. And then also in the same sentence said, because when we play Team Liquid, it's a 50-50. Scrims, I'm guessing. So they are not the best NA team.
Oh, no.
They are for me, they are nowhere near Liquid's level, and I'm underwhelmed by Liquid. And honestly, I could see them and EG being 50-50, and I think, as we'll get to, EG are fucking awful.
Oh, terrible.
But the one thing I also did like about this interview, if I actually no, I'll compartmentalize that because it's a separate topic. But this Complexity team, I mean, guys, like they've got some real deficiencies. It's I can't see them being that number 1 team in NA, even with the low bar that NA has set.
The problem they have is, like, to me, like, I actually agree. In terms of business, I think it's a very well put together squad because it's almost like it's an audition for what the next version of the team's going to be. Like, I think what you do is this. You give this, like, 2-3 more months. So essentially, you give them a chance to qualify for the major. And after the major cycle, what you do is you just decide, right, which one of those 4 players that aren't JT, which ones actually are like star player material? Let's say it ends up being, I don't know, Floppy and Fang, look at the 2 front runners right now. Then I keep those 2, and then we bring in other players. And they're ready now, they've been bedded in, they've worked with JT, they've got the experience under their belt, played a few tournaments, and now we have a real team. Because the real problem is this, like all super teams, this is sort of, people don't realise, like up-and-coming super team, essentially. The problem always is, what happens to the people who don't end up being the ones who get all the resources and are the star players and get everything they want? They essentially end up just being like a slightly more skilled but not as useful version of a role player. So that's the thing with this team, is you hoped it was just going to frag out and everyone popped off and it was a pog team and JT just maneuvers them around like FaZe Clan back in the day or something. That hasn't worked out, unfortunately. I'm with you. When I watched the games, like I pulled for them too. Like I want it, put it this way, on paper, obviously Team Liquid's supposed to be the number 1 NA team. But I think, as is the case now, it's a great way to also make fun of how silly the construction of EG is. If you can go, look, the actual players you guys probably should have gotten went and made a team without you, and they're better than you. That would actually be a great story. The problem is, if I'm actually looking at it, the best thing for everyone for real would be to mix these players together. Like if you could take the right players from Evil Geniuses and put on this squad, you'd have a banging team. That would actually make sense. The problem they have in this team, like I say, is to me, the stars, they're all sort of like too much of the same type of player to me. And I don't think you can keep them in the same squad. And Junior certainly is not making the cut. Yes, of course. It's the other ones, it's up for debate depending on month to month. But Junior seems, unfortunately, like he hasn't made it. I don't know as an AWP of many, but it can't be him.
Yeah, so that he said something as well. Like it was kind of like I liked his frankness. He said, you know, when he moved to Furia, he was like he knew it was a bad move for him, but it's like I'm from NA. The quote is, as a young AWPer, I don't think going to Furia made any sense, but obviously I'm from NA, so I had to take the offer.
To turn the offer down, of course. Yeah, you got to roll the dice on that.
But I mean, man, like it's setting back as well, because it's like, this is what I mean. It's like you have to be so careful with the moves that you pick and where you go and what teams you join at what times.
Yes.
Because so much promising talent gets broken by that first call up to the bigs. They never recover from it, because and that I could have told them a million reasons why you don't take that one. Like you know, they're not even going to be speaking the language. They were literally doing it mixed. So they would try and call him in English, and the rest of the time they'd be talking to each other in Portuguese.
That's a recipe for disaster right there.
He's the AWPer. He needs to know fucking everything, and also be able to communicate everything. Then, when that wasn't working, that was when they all said, okay, we're going to switch to English. So now he's a fucking pariah. By the way,
it's your fault if they lose. And there's the other thing. That always had a timer on it as well, Richard. Like he would essentially, for real, had to be one of the best players in the team. Or one day someone was inevitably going to go, why don't we just get a Brazilian? That was always going to be the question that would drop down one day. So I get it. Like I'm sort of with him. In the short term, yeah, who the fuck was he? He was a guy playing for Triumph. Yeah, you got to sort of take that move. It's just realistically, come on, you have to go into that with your eyes open, knowing like I'm almost certainly going to get fucked on this.
Yeah,
and I agree. I think it's scuffed his whole career now.
Yeah, and look, I hope he can turn it around. He's definitely a guy I would pull for sure. But man, the EG game was rough. It was rough to watch. He had some very very tough times, and it's only the fact that EG are so stupefyingly bad that they were able to come through that. And with that, obviously, this is the topic. So first of all, there's been much ado about the fact that because of the Louvre agreement rules, and much like what you had at place at Flashpoint, which I can't help but remember it being bad when Flashpoint did it. But
remember, Richard, loads of people from like HLTV, loads of every genius insider thought it was like they were even saying stuff. You're just finding the teams, like give me a break,
yeah. But basically, there's a clause, obviously, in the Louvre agreement, which is if you finish bottom. I think is it 3 seasons or in a row?
Was it 3 or 4? One of the two, yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's 3. Basically, your position within the Louvre agreement, within the league, is up for review. And why do they do that? Well, okay, they do that, guys, because obviously you can go look at any fucking American sports league. There are some franchise leagues that are just always, franchise teams rather, that are just always a travesty. They're run bad. They don't care. They don't go and try and get the best talent. They don't have the best managers because they know they're in the league and they're going to get the same cut, right? And it's turn up and fucking play, right? So, tanking's a thing. Obviously, in the NFL, we all know about that. They all pretend it doesn't go on. That's why I'm interested with that Miami Dolphins lawsuit. But the tanking is when you deliberately lose so you get a better draft pick, so you can improve your overall talent next season. So you just stop trying, and it definitely does go on. There's no way it doesn't.
For sure.
So to avoid that, a lot of the leagues that I've seen in esports bake in these like agreements that if you listen, it's franchising by any other name. But if you continue to phone it in, we, the stakeholders, can turn around and essentially tell you to get the fuck out of the league so somebody who's more committed to the league can come in and do it. And in Flashpoint, I believe you took a percentage of their money, right? You took a percentage of the revenue share.
They would have just been fined it was going to be like 100k a month or something like that. Yeah, there was a process. It was obviously never implemented again. They would claim due to the fucking pandemic or whatever. Fuck.
Now I remember, of course, that was like considered like noodle doodle. Like everyone was fucking complaining about that on Reddit and Twitter and everything. And of course, the reality is like there it was in the Louvre agreement. But spoiler, all academic anyway, because there is zero chance.
I know fans always ask me this all the time, Richard. The dumbest thing is what they miss is you said it perfectly. It's not that you just go, well, rules are rules, and I've had luck, Richard, and they've failed these seasons, so they're out. No. The question is, who do I want in instead? If you can't ask and answer that question, you won't be able to make a judgment on whether a company would remove a Louvre agreement team in CSGO, an LEC or LCS team in League of Legends. Because the real problem is this. The real reason why they would ever activate this clause is they'll activate this clause if you're some little shitter org they don't care about. And meanwhile, like someone from some American sports franchise wants to buy into the LCS. They'll activate that clause then. The problem here, fans, is this is evil geniuses, you idiots. This is actually a fairly large esports org from bloody America with all VC. So at this point, I don't think they want EG out of the league. They might want some other, like maybe I don't know, I'll pick a random one. There's no reason for this. I'll pick it random. They might want ENCE out. Maybe they think rather than ENCE, small Finnish team, we'd rather have a big, we'd rather have some Comcast wanker buy into the league. They're not taking evil geniuses out, guys. That's not even on the table, I think.
I mean, put it this way, like, I think ENCE is actually a really good example. I think if ENCE were in this position, they would absolutely be gone. They would be absolutely gone.
I like the original Pro League spots getting taken from that year. That was what that was about. If people don't get it, that's why I was so annoyed. It wasn't even just the way they handled it. It's that it was so transparently cynical that what they essentially did was take a league which had literally worked on the basis of merit, side asterisk for every time Carmack magically found ways to get VP back into.
I was just going to say, the VP fucking nonsense was unreal.
Just carve that out the way. So once I moved that, it was a league based on merit, Richard. You earned your spot in the league. So, okay, this premise was you earn your spot in the league until one day they go. Problem here is too many shit teams that I don't want her in. So even though they earned their spots, just take their spots and give it to the fucking guys we do want in. So essentially, like, that's the only way that'll happen, unfortunately. And definitely EG ain't the org for that. They're made men. Let's be real. It's EG, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, and I think not just that, but they are trying. I mean,
there's another factor, right? This is why it was even tricky when we were discussing the premise in Flashpoint of those rules, because someone made a point. It's a very astute point, right? Actually, if I start fining people on the surface, right, it actually says that I should it should be an incentive for me to spend, right? But then what happens, for example, if I do spend, but then I just make bad decisions and now I'm doing badly. So I've already spent the money. I did what you said, but I didn't get the results because I'm not a fucking miracle worker. Sometimes it won't work. So now you're fining me again. So you know what I mean? Like the difference is this as well, Richard. In my opinion, there should be. I even think this ruling should have in the wording that it's about the concept of good faith. Because here's the difference. I actually think explicitly because of what EG did in the offseason, even though I don't agree with the players they signed, the attempt to put together big names like this in a fucked up way justifies then the project failing. I would be more annoyed in this case, Richard. Say it was EG that signed the players that are now in call, and then they finished last place. Now, yes, you have to get the fuck out because you're just being cynical and you're min-maxing and just trying to get a lottery tickets, and the joke is we're funding you to do it while you fuck around. But as you say, like, mate, they bought fucking, like, you're aware, guys, that Stewie 2K is like the most decorated NA player of all time. They brought bloody Automatic, a major winner, back from Valorant. Like, these moves didn't work, but they did try. I agree with you, mate. I think in good faith they tried to have a good team. It's just whoever had the eye for talent made the wrong choices, you know.
Well, that's also get into that because you know EG are set to finish rock bottom of the group. Currently, like I said, at the time of recording this, they are about to lose to AGO. It seems. They're already a map down, and AGO is ahead at the moment on the second map. So let's, I did say I had question marks about this project, and there's a lot going on. So first of all, their T sides have been fucking pretty whack, just as a rule. Seems to be increasingly the way the game's balanced now. You really judge the good sides and the good IGLs based on how much they're getting done on the T-sided rounds, especially, by the way, with, like, you know, the fucking silenced M4 being strong as fuck and, you know, everything else. Seen a lot of people, you know, whining about that. But it's just got to be said, like, I watch EG, it's trash. It's not good Counterstrike by any stretch of the imagination. They are not playing good high-level Counterstrike at all. In fact, I'm going to say it, this version of Evil Genius is the one that I watch when I watch them play now. I think it's worse than almost any. I think it's worse than the Miku fucking Oboe iteration. I really do. Just tactically, and I've got to say it all comes back to my absolute adamant belief. I do not think Stewie is an IGL.
Oh no. This is the problem, dude. Have you noticed this? This is what people don't get. There's a very key distinction I've got to make here, which is there are players who are so respected by other players that essentially the other players are delusional because they like them too much. And what's sad is Stewie 2K is right in that category. Because other players fuck with his playing style individually, you'll notice there are a million interview instances of people on Team Liquid and Cloud9 and coaches of his where they all say Richard is, oh, great in-game leader, oh, great mind for the game, we really fuck with what he's doing. But then every time he actually has the reins, it's always a bit underwhelming, isn't it? And by the way, this project especially, as far as we know, he basically handpicked this team, guys.
Yes.
Like, so that's the other thing. You can't do what I might do with like an MSL team and go, well, you know, what did he do? Because I would tell you, he didn't ask for those players. As far as we know, he did want these exact guys. So unfortunately, the whole project kind of does point to him. Like right now, especially if it fails, I have to say, to me, this was like a Stewie 2K vanity project. And the main conclusion, aside from don't ever put a team like this together again, is Stewie 2K, you aren't to be an IGL, mate. It just ain't for you. It's a bit like NBK. Guess what? Same thing with him. Respect him as a player. Does have a good mind for the game. Can be a good secondary caller. But you've seen what happens. Something about it just doesn't vibe when he tries doing it. And I have to say, like, I thought it was questionable in some of the past teams he did it. But, like, this team all around it, I agree. It's just really bad. Because here's what fans aren't going to get. On paper, you're going to think it can't be worse than the Me Who Won or the one where like Cirque and Breeze looked like they were just mailing it in. It is. Like, here's the problem. Name-wise, this lineup is better. Just go watch the games, guys. It is really low-level Counter-Strike. In fact, like Rich was saying, they're not even a team you have any sort... Like, I would ask a fan, what is the upside? What charm do I have? What map are they good on? What style do they have? What unique strength? They have nothing. I'm not joking. It is a mess. This team is like that famous thing when you're a kid and you try combining 7 types of ice cream. And guess what? It's worse than any one of the ice creams. It doesn't make, as you think, an incredible rainbow flavored. It makes a shit brown mess that is like really bad. That's what EG is, unfortunately. It's a little kid's fucking ice cream mess.
Yeah, no, it is bad, mate. I mean, you know, look, and here's the thing as well. I actually just looked now while we were talking about it. Or, like, if you go at the bottom of the charts, I actually thought Automatic had done better than this because it passed the eye test. So he was ranked the lowest overall with
Yeah.
0.79 that was coming into the maps that are being played now, which puts him above PTR,
Oh,
who was
technically
rock
he's
bottom.
retired.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Ben Leet, so two-party astronauts players. Reels from Sprout. Leaky from Looking for Org. Lee-Man from AGO. Apoc, fucking Australian legend or New Zealand legend rather, in Looking for Org, but played in that Oceania region. Like you should have heard the name
For a million years.
And yeah, exactly. And then Milky, and then it's Automatic from Milky.
He's below them all.
No, so Automatic is basically like outside of party astronauts. He was the lowest ranked North American player this tournament. But you want to know who's just above him? Stewie.
Stewie 2K. Yeah, there you go.
And you want to know who's just above Stewie? Rush.
Turk. Rush. Okay.
Yeah. And so basically, out of the bottom 10 players, I think three of them are like EG players. Put it this way: Rush and Spiddy had the same stat line, pretty much. So that's a throwback for long-time viewers. But yeah, it's I don't know, man. It's like they did really, really bad. And, I'm trying to think, like, Breezy was their best player this tournament, but he didn't even break a positive rating either. They didn't have a single positive player this tournament. So, it's really, really bad. Like, I just don't understand how this is going to work. And as I've said before, by the way, if you are Breezy and Cirque and you are despondent and demoralized, you don't want Stewie 2K as your IGL.
Oh, no way.
Fucking real. He is going to chew you up every time. In fact,
if he'll publicly do it to Fallen, what's he going to do to you? Yeah. I fucking watched cunt who hasn't been good for a year.
Yeah, I mean, listen. So there's real question marks about whether Breezy and Cirque are even going to stick around in the game. I can't imagine they want to do it this long. I also don't know if you saw shit. I can't remember what match it was. They won they won a pistol and then instantly got like ninjaed on the next round. Like they got ninja defused. It was like mega embarrassing. Like, and put it this way, like every time ESL's done like, let's now listen to Evil Genius's comms. They're barely talking, man. They are just so like it just isn't what it was supposed to be. I mean, keep in mind, NAF was meant to be on this lineup, right?
That's true. Yeah.
Now, by the way, that would have been a crime. Like that would have been an absolute crime because it would have ruined NAF's career. Like no doubt. Like not even NAF could pull this team out of the hole that they're in, but it would have potentially given them like a spark. I just don't even know who's meant to take over a game right now because like I love Cirque. He was great for a while. I don't think he's coming back. I don't think he's ever going to be the Opera he used to be.
It's been too long now. It's been too long.
Yeah, we've been saying it for 2 years, I think. So it's just over. So I mean, EG are about to finish like rock bottom of this group. And here's something that I was thinking about. Obviously, like.
By the way, if people don't know, it's not even just like that. Like, as Richard said, not a single one of them for the whole Pro League where you play all those best of three, not a single one is even a 1.0 rating. So stats-wise, dog shit. And then they don't even win maps. They just lose map after map after map. All the maps. Like, they're not even a team that's like, yes, they might have a close map, but they're not in these. And even then they don't, by the way. Usually, actually, they're just getting rolled. Like, they're the team that just turns up, gets rolled 16-8, and it's the next map. Like, this is, like, if I was actually EG, there's not even like an eye test angle where I can go like, oh, but there's just something in the game. Like, this is actually a disgrace. I'd be so fucking sad if I was leading this project.
Dude, their last 3 months, 27% win rates.
And I'm sure they've played a bunch of NA teams as well.
Yes. That includes, everyone was like going, but they only lost that best of one against Strife.
There you go.
In the RMR. Yeah, they did do that. They also did lose to that party astronauts team in a best of one. Sure, it was a meaningless game. It was a seeding game. But like you're evil geniuses, you turn up and you just smash people and go to bed.
Even just to send a message, for fuck's sake, it's your region. You're supposed to be the kings of your region.
So here's a question for you, because did you see round about the time the coaching stuff came out? We're going to get into trouble on this one because it's speculation.
I know.
Right?
Because there is another name we haven't mentioned in this lineup that could have had an impact that we haven't talked about yet. Yeah.
Well, basically, Rops. Right. So there was a clip Lewis Mira tweeted out to illustrate this is what the bug looks like, and this is an instance of it happening in this game. And somebody very quickly identified that game as being a G2
basically
game.
showed it without any obits, so you couldn't see who it was.
Yeah, there was no names or whatever.
Listen, Mira, you should know better than that, mate. It's the internet. Like, they can find any flag against just a sky that fucking guy she both put up. Use it because again, it's like, listen, the joke, and I can get away with it. Weaponized autism. Like, you don't want to get that neural net of 4chan going. So basically, listen, someone was going to find this, especially when you think how nuts people are in CSGO. So yeah, as you can expect, like, it felt like 5 seconds later, someone's just found this actual game.
With that being said, I mean, you might be able to get away with the phrase weaponized autism. I definitely can't. But, you know, it was Rops. Rops just insta found it, I think.
Oh, I think they said though that like a fan had told him or something, and he just did the tweet. That's what that sounds more plausible to me, because that is how it works. You know, like if someone talks shit on you, your fan just links it to you directly. You're not really scouring the whole internet, despite what morons in Overwatch might think. Believe it or not.
As you know, I get sent mad stuff all the time.
Of course you do.
And it blows my mind the stuff people are able to find, like when you crowdsource it. But anyway, so Rob's tweeted it out, and then it was like people went and looked at it. And it was in this weird grey area where Malik hadn't officially joined G2, but it was an ECS season where he absolutely was the coach.
Okay.
So he would have been the coach in that game, right? Because some people were saying, is it Niak, right? You know, who was like the, legendary Very Games manager. He did do some coaching for.
It's usually more sort of you just list him as the coach if you don't have a coach.
Yeah, basically he's the guy who stands behind the team and makes sure everyone's not raging at each other, because he's always been a coach, a manager in teams that have had great IGLs that you don't need to give any coaching input to. He stood behind Existence, so he just goes, more water, Mr. Existence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's all you have to do, right? But anyway, that clip supposedly is a Malik clip, and that's one of the ones that hadn't been public before, hadn't been out there, wasn't part of the original bans. It's not the original bug that people got banned for. And then obviously it was announced that Malik wasn't going to be behind the team. Now listen, I don't think there's anything to this, because they did specify medical reasons. And obviously it would be very bad form for an org to fabricate that. But
after the last few years.
Yes. But they all even stipulated he's gone to France. He's receiving medical treatment. It is not related to COVID, and that was the end of that one. And so as a result, they had the assistant coach behind the team. Now, listen, equally it's esports. So listen, love EG, love their management. But I'm just keep it real. You're an esports org, so you probably lied 10 times before you had your fucking breakfast.
And the timing's convenient, obviously.
That's just the nature of the business. Yeah, and then the timing. So, I've got to say, like, I don't know if it was linked, but certainly having a coach like Malik, who's someone I really, really rate very highly, having him behind you and having his input, big loss. And I'm also going to speculate a little bit more. Sorry, guys. I do wonder about his long-term association with the project, because I don't see him and Stewie vibing at all. Put it this way, Malik, if you remember, he's the guy who was like basically just fucking had to deal with Happy all the time. And it used to drive him up the wall, but he'd still do his job. He's the guy who would come with like fucking pages of analysis and strats, hand it over to Happy, and Happy would just be like, yeah, we're going to do it my way. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how this EG team can get better. I don't know how it can pull itself out of a nosedive. I don't know what the upside is. I don't know what the path to improvement looks like. You've got a world-class coach. You've got world-class experienced players. You are playing in a region that is completely bereft of almost any real competition whatsoever. And you're always going to be a part of all these big franchise leagues because of your branding, because of who you are, right? It's like you've got the golden ticket, but you can't win a fucking game. I don't know, man.
Thing is, this team particularly is why even though I know when you initially put other people in charge of signing players, there are going to be bad GMs. It's how every new job in esports starts. People start bad, gradually the good people emerge, you refine them, you pick the good people, and eventually you have coaches, GMs, fucking CEOs. Eventually you have every role. The problem is this is an example of what needs to never happen again, which is when players make a team. Because I'll tell you how this team gets made. This is exactly the team where there's little cliques in NA, and what you do is this. The whole time EG's going downhill, if you're Breezy and Cirque, you're just both talking to each other. Well, you know what? We're all playing shit, but why would we be playing good? You know the others, they're fucking shit. They've been, you know what? We've been dragging their asses for years. Tell you what, fuck them. We'll wait until we'll kick them eventually. So they get kicked one by one. And what happens is, this is the part where I can't believe it. Because I get why they could be delusional. Like, well, we're the good ones. What I can't believe is that someone like Stu2K and even maybe NAF, because if people don't know, that's why that Rush B Media guy years ago fabricated that story that NAF was going to EG. It's just because it was the obvious team. Like, if you know, like the people who were from his background, who he's friends with, it was just the one where like it would have made sense to have a guess, right? But as far as I know, that was a fabricated story. But the point is, these are the sort of cliques and the circles that people move within. Whereas in Team Liquid, as far as I know, it was more like, you know, Legion Nitro or some shit like that, or Legion Nitro and Twist. Like, they had their cliques. And so the joke is they've just put together two cliques of players. Obviously, Stewie's brought back his old mate Automatic. It's like, of course it would work. We've gotten rid of all the shitters. Except the joke is, when you actually look at this team through the eyes of someone who watched the last 2 years of Counterstrike, this team is nothing on paper. Like, this is why we've all called it in the whole scene. We've all looked at a team that on paper, by the way, remember, 4 of these players, like, I can't remember if Rush has ever made it, but 4 of these players are like top 20 HLTV type players. This should be called the super team. Nobody called this super team. In fact, everyone I saw on all the shows, Richard, was like, there wasn't even people holding out hope. Everyone was sort of like, this is a bit of a shit lineup, isn't it? In fact, as you said, really, the second NAF was announced, he was off the team. Everyone was sort of like, why are they even going through with the project? Because,
because they immediately followed it by getting Rush.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
So, I mean, the timing was bad. Like, I mean, listen, from my understanding, I think Rush was always meant to be a part of it. But it's like, you've got to think about you've got to get your ducks in a row. You probably want to announce him first.
Yes,
exactly. Just get that out the way. If he's always meant to be part of it, you fucking get him out the way first. Because he's the one, by the way, that, like, people are going to be underwhelmed with and point to. But as I've just told you, he's not even statistically the worst on the team. It's spoiler, he is meant to be, because he is the fucking support player. He was the guy who, like, had the renaissance, changed his role at Complexity, and actually made people understand, yes, you can have dog shit stats, but actually do an incredible job for your team. Like, he was the guy that really won people over to that concept. In the modern era now, it's going to be academic. It's going to be irrelevant because this team's going to be a bust. It's just really sad, like, because I agree. Like, this, if you took all these players at their peaks, much like what we were talking about with Complexity, that -1 stat, this would be a mega team.
Yeah.
This team would blow everyone away. Like you see, this would be like, holy shit.
It'd be an all-star team.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah, fucked up. Right, one other topic is obviously what's going on right now with Astralis. It's kind of interesting because we had a bit of spicy, as the kids say, drama, and their match with Complexity is about to tie it up. This is 1-1.
Right, let's do it. Let's get in. Let's get the fucking hazmat suit on and go into the shit Danish drama. Because even though this is just another one where it's not even anything, it's so light-hearted fucking shit talking. But the problem here is this, right? So obviously we're referring to this thing where Glaive and Cadian have renewed that drama from last year. So here's a quick version. If everyone remembers, because I'm going to set it up properly here to make this point. This is where Cadian might have actually fucked up the most in any trash talk / narrative attempt he ever made. And it's all because a reason I get, which is this. Cadian very cynically picked the Blast Fall finals last year, the tournament after the major. He picked that moment when Astralis had their brand new lineup that he knows, like, best case scenario, they could only have practiced something like a week and a half with this team. He's picked the moment where he's in one of the best teams in the world. Remember, he's just almost been to the major final. And then he's just seen the old Astralis lineup just shit the bed completely at the major. Now they've got a brand new lineup, they've a new coach, everything new. So he's picked the one moment in his career year when Astralis looks at their absolute worst and he's at his absolute peak and he goes, this next game is for all the marbles.
All the bragging rights
will last for years on this one. Now,
Yeah.
why would you say that, fans? Why would you say years? Because if you're the better team, the years will be because you're just going to beat him for years. No, he wants this one moment ever. He doesn't even want later next month to count. Like, he wants this one game. It's like fucking Bart when he played Homer, if you can't remember, on that like fucking game. And the joke is like when fucking Bart won once, he goes like, I retire, undefeated, the champion, like goodbye. And it's like he wanted to do that, right? Except here's the problem: because he's Cadian and also that crowd did cheat. It's blown up in his face, egg in your face style to an insane. There's so many eggs in this guy's face. Pasha thinks his face will be an acceptable location for a major. That's actually not bad. It's a reference call back to the face major. So yeah, anyway, the point is he's fucked up, right? And now his problem is this: as everyone knows, after he lost that game, he did then do an interview where he said, like, well, of course that one game wouldn't decide the whole nature of the rivalry. So essentially now he's trying to back out of the fact that he himself, remember, Glaive didn't even make this guy do it. There wasn't even a chess match here. He just offered up that you get years of bragging rights. So guess what? Since Glaive did win the match, he wants his years of bragging rights now, Cadian. But no, because Cadian didn't think it through that he could lose. Now when he finally wins, what compared to that is a meaningless match in Pro League, Cadian's now trying to be like, aha, look who's winning now. And then everyone in the whole scene effectively is like, shut up, you idiot. Like, so even though I actually feel for Cadian, like, you're allowed to trash talk when you win. He did just, he painted himself into this corner completely. And then also, he has just, as a result, like, here's the thing. You can't actually, you know this. When someone is more popular than you on Twitter, there is no beating them. You can just say what you want to say. That's it. Like, if people don't know, I've had this happen many times. I've had times where a pro player essentially didn't even say a diss. They were just like, you are shit. And then I'll say something funny back. Yeah, what about this time? And then the fans just go, lol, he got you. He got you. Because he's just more popular than it. So the problem Cadian has here is, even if you did win, mate, like, Glaive's just won more than you. He's more popular. So you're never going to win to a pleb. In fact, they were even saying, you probably saw this, there was loads of people confused, Richard. Like, they must have never watched UFC ever. Because they were all going, but how can he trash talk to a 4-time major? Because anyone can, you idiot. You just open your mouth. The idea, by the way, isn't even that you're saying you're better than them. It's that here's the funny angle that I can, like, sort of get you on. Like, I think people, this whole topic just did my head in, mate, because people, the idea people don't understand trash talk, like, in current years. Like, how is that still a thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, listen as well, though. It's like what people need to understand. This is an actual example of, like, it's a legitimate beef.
Yeah, it's a good one. I like it.
It should be treasured a little bit.
It's the shit, isn't it?
Because we've had a lot of like really fake fucking esports beefs where people pretend that they don't like each other, but obviously they do. But this is the first thing we've had where there's a long history to it as well. Ups and downs, org fuckery, cheating allegations on both sides if you factor in crowd play for Astralis. It's good, it's spicy, it's healthy, they're both Danish. But yeah, like, people obviously just fucking crying about it and spoiling it.
Here's what's sad, though, is that I'm so tempted. It's sad. I know Cadian will never do this. If you haven't noticed, guys, you all saw it. You all saw the crying in that video. They're all going to stay as far away as possible from the Hunden topic. Because here's the problem, Cadian. Do you really want to win this fucking Cold War? Because I'll tell you how we make it a hot war tomorrow that you win. Here's all you do. But to do it, you've got to have some big balls. I don't think you got them, mate. Here's what you do. Your angle now is to Glaive. Why does he have a coach who abused the coaching book? If you had any balls, that's your angle, by the way. That, as I say, you are essentially, it's a nuclear war. It's mutually assured destruction once you do it. But if you have the balls for it, that is always the winning play, mate. And I tell you what, if it was me, you know me, I'd just be threatening that 24/7, mate. I'd be right on that fucking, you know. But he's never
we kicked that
never even addressed that. Exactly. That's even the angle, fucking gangster, in it. You just go lean into it.
Yeah, we kicked our cheat. When will you? So, but anyway, look, so what sparked it off was like Astralis have had another patchy campaign, let's say, in the groups. And as we're saying, I thought all the games would be finished by the time we were recording this, but Astralis and Complexity are going to go the distance, it seems. So might not have that one resolved to talk about. And I don't think it makes any difference. I don't think they can stop Astralis going through. They'd go on 6 points. See, this is why we need stats. I'm no good with that stuff, mate. Numbers are fucking alien to me. But whatever, anyway. So they played heroic. Astralis looked to be in total control, but somehow fucked up the next two maps. I couldn't even believe it as I was watching it. It was absolutely insane because it was one of those ones where it's like they win, Astralis win their map pick 16-12, goes to overpass. Honestly, Astralis, I think we're like 10-5 up at one point. Just look to be sitting pretty. It's overpass. It's glaive. You know, like it's all good. It's all good. But Heroic won that in overtime, and then they won Vertigo in like double overtime.
And also there was like Astralis was at like almost I think they were at like map point or something mad on the second map or something, right? Wasn't it like they were up massive and then they threw the game?
Well, yeah, it was 15, something like 15-7.
That sounds about right. Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah,
something like 15-7 if memory serves me right. Like, hard to remember because it's just like such a deluge of Counterstrike just beamed into your brain. But yeah, obviously, was watching this one with great interest.
There's also where this is where Cadian doesn't know the battle he's fighting, Richard. So he also tried to use that to his benefit. Where when they sort of like were going back and forth, and obviously again, he looks silly arguing with Glaive, doesn't he? His angle was like, well, yeah, but it looked strange that a 4-time major winner would be losing after being up 15-7. He's playing you moron. You're essentially saying like, look how shit you are losing to me. How does that fucking work? See what I mean? Like these guys just need like an advisor or something, Richard. Like
this is what you should specialize in. Trash talk coach.
I need
trash talk coach. Just like that should just be a thing for everyone. You just come in, like write all their jokes, like Cyrano de Bergerac shit.
Yes.
Like, yeah, you know.
Here's what I would have said.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, like it was a great series. It's one of the best series this whole Pro League campaign. And I got to say, like, one of the things that we asked a lot about was, you know, who's going to be the star player on Heroic. Stown kind of at the major, in the build up to the major, you know, it was looking like it was going to be him. This is the first genuine, like, actual god tier. Like, this puts him right up there. In fact, statistically, literally, it puts him right up there. It is Simple, Shiro, and Stown.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. He's above Bit. He's above OC we talked about. He's above Rez was the guy at NIP who popped up. So he is above a bunch of names right now. And Heroic have looked really, really good. I'll wait and see what they do in the later campaigns. It's like wasn't a particularly tough group. Na'Vi was the only game they really had, and they lost that, and they lost that handling. I guess, you know, they weren't really trying because who gives a fuck? But, you know, that might come back and bite you somewhere down the line. But, man, Stown, this campaign, absolutely fucking sick. Like, a legit standout performance.
Oh, it's mega, yeah. Especially because the thing I like about his game is just the eye test alone tells you he doesn't have like a really fucking like volatile playing style. He has a really smooth playing style. Like that looks like the sort of player. Like this reminds me of like when they're in their prime. People like Get Right. The reason you can build a team around them is they can just do that every fucking day, mate. They just turn up and they play 8.5 out of 10 Counter-Strike, but they just do it every game. So like that is fabulous to build a squad around because then you're just looking at the other pieces. Like right now, you move a bit here and there. And also, like, the difference between last year and now is, like, the sheer production. Like, as you say, the numbers now match it. Like, before, it's like if you were picking which one was the best one, you might have picked him. Just the numbers tell you he should be this star player. And this actually might be his year currently. This guy's going to make a run maybe at, like, being a top 5 player in the world. This looks very legit. Probably is right now by that logic, yeah.
So in this series, he outfragged Config. Remember, this is a 3-map, 3 overtime total series. And Config had 90 kills. Like Config was mega this series as well. I mean, like, and you know, it just wasn't able to kind of get it over the line. Now, obviously, without knowing how the group pans out.
Oh, by the way, yeah, the thing you were saying is at the end there, that's actually also the downside of the way this group worked. So the one match that on paper you're like, can't wait for this. It's always brilliant when Heroic and Na'Vi play. It was the last game, so they were already both qualified, and it literally didn't matter. In fact, there's even a cynical world where you might even want to just not show anything against them, right? In case you play them in the final or something, you know, there's that shit. So it actually, unfortunately, ruined the best game of the group, just the order, unfortunately. Could have been a great game, it was a shit game.
And to talk a little bit more about Astralis, this is where I'm going to break people's fucking brains.
Come on.
Because as you know, right, everyone says, lol, Carrigan, old shit washed. Right?
Oh.
Everyone says that, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's there all the time. If FaZe lose, it's, you know, Carrigan's a bot. You know, oh God, I feel so sorry for his teammates, blah, blah. You know, no JKS, no win, lol.
Yep.
Well, fuck that narrative to death, right? But you know what? He, at this competition, went 12 maps, 0.89 rating. Now,
What name are you going to say now?
oh, I wonder,
Go
who
on.
else has a 0.89 rating in the real doldrums down there with the tacos of this world, the Dexters of this world, the Spiddies, well, all of EG, basically. Who else is it? It's fucking Zipnix. It's the man who got the bag, isn't it? And man alive.
And there's no Lucky. There's no excuse anymore. Because, you know, people
No.
were like, maybe Lucky is taking his spot. There's no Lucky anymore, guys. It's over. Now players have to actually be held accountable.
Yeah, and it's got to be said as it's got to be said as well. By the way, any Lucky stands like
I know.
how can we keep rewriting history like this? Farlig's done really well. I mean, not amazing. Just
it doesn't have to be.
Such an improvement on Lucky. It's unbelievable. Yes. But Zipnix, I was watching last night. I was watching the Na'Vi game between them and Astralis, and it was fucking embarrassing. Like how off the pace he was as a player. It was unbelievable. Mad thing was they were still able to take a map off Na'Vi, right? Which is like, I mean, crazy. It was Nuke as well, which is significant. But they got 16 Ford on their pick, right? Which was ancient. And Zipnik's got 2 kills. He went 2 and 19 in a 20-round game. And then, you know, yeah, he did all right in the decider. He did all right in Inferno, I suppose. But I just feel like Inferno you're going to get all the rounds. You're going to get all, you know, like I feel you should do okay in Inferno. He was bottom fragging on Nuke, and that was the one that Astralis won. Like, seriously, guys, if you can't have it both ways, you can't attack players based on what we're talking about here. He's old, he's washed, he's not good enough, he's holding everyone back. He's got the exact same stat. In fact, someone should just do that. They should just put up Carrigan stats or some other unpopular players' stats, right? But actually, the Zipniks, they've done a switcheroo.
Yeah,
when
yeah.
people go,
Everyone making the comment.
Yeah, exactly. And when they all start saying, only a shit player would do that, then was fucking Zipniks.
Also, here's the difference.
It's the only way to get through to these motherfuckers.
What's wild is this is where stats make no sense to use. Because here's the joke. Carrigan on his own YouTube puts out the POV fucking demos. You can see all the shit he's doing for the team. He's fucking a dry entry in half the time. Meanwhile, Zipnix isn't the IGL and he isn't winning in fucking clutches, is he? So it's like, what is he doing? Like, again, if you're a fan of his, at this point, you have to just admit you just won't criticize any player you like. That's all you're left with. There's no angle. There's no defense. Like, you'll notice, by the way, Astralis doesn't ever even reference Zipnix anymore. Like, they don't even play defense for him in public and, like, make a reason. Like, it's not like, you know, they do an interview and then Glave's like, you know, of course Zipnix is going through hard. No, they just don't say his name. He doesn't exist. Like, it's like, he's like the fucking, he must be a bloody made man as well. They just never reference the guy. It's mental.
Yep, it is crazy.
Here's what's sad as well, by the way. One thing I'd say is this as well. This is what's mad. Because in theory, he was always the support player for like 8 years now or something, mate. Like, because he always played that role. Technically, you were the player, like, yeah, who obviously sometimes bottom frags, etc. But the difference is that guy was so fucking disciplined and smart at Counterstrike. I would have predicted for real, his game should have lasted forever. He should be one of those guys. Like, you know what Shocks does at the end last year, where it's like, even if not, he does nothing else, he just wins a couple of clutches and you go, that's why you keep him on the books. That's what I thought Zipnix's career ends as. So, like, the idea it's going to end, like, where each year's diminishing returns, but your pay goes up, like, that's just whack, mate. I mean, it just is, I'm afraid. It's just a sad way to go out.
Yeah, it's been bad. I mean, and like I say, all the good things about Astralis right now, it's almost nothing to do with the old guard.
Yeah,
I mean, there's hardly any of it left. But, you know, I mean, like...
It's just blame F and config, isn't it?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Like the 2 guys that brought in. And by the way, the fans still give Blame F such like a mad hard time. Bait F. It's like I just don't get it. Don't get what that player has to do.
I even say this, by the way. I actually wondered myself when he was in complexity. Oh, is he pulling a happy? Is that how he gets these stats?
Yeah.
He calls just for himself. He doesn't call in Astralis, guys, and he still frags out the same number. In fact, if not, maybe even better. Like, listen, you might not like his style. Like, if you like fucking aggressive play, it's not your shit. Yeah, it's not your cup of tea. But you have to give him credit. Like, he is carrying this team numbers-wise. He's putting up production. This guy fucking outputs like a motherfucker, so you've got to give him his credit.
Yeah, but again, it's how the fans play favourites because ended up having like some fucking insane lurking style at the sort of end of it, in CSGO and was getting all sorts of numbers predicated on doing it was Get Right, and everyone fucking loved it because that shit fucking works. That shit was pioneering, especially at the time he was doing it was pioneering, and it's like. People fucking don't like it when it's somebody. I don't know. Blame F just. For some reason, like people just love to shit on this kid. And it's fucking, it's crazy to me because, again, by the way, Astralis' best performer at this tournament, even out Frag Config overall, who I think's had like a really, really good competition. So, but yeah, for me, Astralis, you know what? With Farleg, they're almost there. I would say you just keep Glaive forever, like whatever. Who gives a fuck?
You have to double down on that at this point, don't you?
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean?
But like. The grotesque amount of money they paid Zipnix for the player they've got it's borderline malfeasance. This is the problem, negligent.
I actually think, Richard, they're in a way deeper hole than they need to be, because if they were a different org, as in it wasn't Astralis, but they had the same players, same VC, right? The answer's obvious, which is when you have people like, look, Config, Blame F, Glaive. People still want to play with guys like that. There are tons of Danish talents you could replace Zipnix with tomorrow, and we can start on a new project. The problem is, because they're the Astralis org, though, I think that they won't do what you should do, which is you just... I know it sounds fucked up after you gave the guy the bag, but if you were a true sports org... This has happened many times in American sports. You sign somebody with an enormous contract. Just look at the fucking LA Rams, by the way. They actually finagled their way out of exactly this scenario twice with the fucking running back and the quarterback. Yeah. What you do is you take it on the chin that you fucked the deal up, and you just say, I will eat that cost and I am replacing you. Even though everyone else is going to go, what are you talking about? You've already paid the money for him. Yeah, but the problem is he can't win games. So I have to, for real, just say, look at his contract. What's the minimum we have to pay him? Pay him the money, essentially, to fuck off, and we have to sign another player. Now, that might have to be a rookie, by the way, but I would go for it at this point in time. Like, I've just seen too much from this guy, like, because people are going to forget as well. He also looked like he mailed it in the team last year when they were still figuring out the, like, he hasn't been good for ages, guys. This isn't just haterism. He hasn't been good for fucking ages. So at this point, like, I don't think the Astralis org will, because I think they're very cynical. But if I were them, like, if you want to win in the game, if you replace him tomorrow, I think you have some pieces where we can have a future here. If I don't have that guy in the rearview mirror, we can do something. I think this team could be something.
If you can get a guy that's got the perfect role overlap, and there has to be somebody like that out there. Yeah,
for sure.
Because like you say, listen, he's not even the clutch minister anymore, guys. Like, I've seen him be in these like 1v2s, and you go, oh, can he? And he just gets fucking bodied immediately. It's just anticlimactic, So yeah. I mean, for me, like, I think Astralis have actually turned a corner by dropping Lucky. I really think they are now
for sure, yeah,
poised. I said if they kept Lucky and kept Zipnix, they weren't going to be in the top 10. They're ranked 11th now, having made the move. They should beat Complexity here and should get through, have a deep run at Pro League, and that might just push them up into the top 10. And then moving forward, listen, like, there was that report, wasn't there, saying, like, oh, they talked to Zipnix and said if he didn't boost his stats, didn't sort his performances out, they were going to cut him, and he was fine with it. So, listen, if all of that's true, like, we're there, guys.
Fair play. Yeah, fair play.
If you want to win, Navi's the barometer. Navi's the yardstick. He's that far off the pace in those games. So those are the games you need people to perform in. So anyway, there you are. That's the Pro League talk. There was just one thing we didn't really touch on, actually. In the last episode, we did talk about Brolan leaving Fnatic and obviously going to NIP and all the good thing for NIP. We didn't talk about Poison sort of coming back from the dead, joining Fnatic on a trial, because for those who missed what happened in Pro League. Basically, they brought him in as a stand-in because their team just fucking fell
the
apart.
best thing, by the way, literally as you're talking now, like it's now over that group that you were waiting the whole time to see what the result was. The Astralis did make it through, but they actually oh no, never mind. It's what you were right. Mathematically, it didn't matter what happened on the last map. That's right. Yeah,
I don't even think it's the last map though. I think that's actually there's another map going on. There's a third.
In that case, I don't think it matters who wins as to who gets through because, like they're saying, it's finished anyway. Yeah, go
on. So anyway, so Poison had like that breakout fucking performance. Obviously, bodied everyone in his group. Like performed really well, which nobody saw coming. So they've given him a trial. They've brought Pepzor is going to be the stand-in now for Brolan. Like, what's going to happen long term with Fnatic? Because listen, I think they'll probably sign Poison on a full-time
an obvious move
basis. Yeah. I mean, he's in free agency. He's not going to want too much money. He's just done really, really well, and obviously helped you get through a really tough group in Pro League. I don't think they're going to go much further. I'm not particularly a fan of Pep, so I don't think he's particularly a good player, and certainly, he's the one technically filling Brolan's shoes. So they are going to need a long-term replacement. But here's the thing. There was all that drama in Pro League between Chad and Khan. They were all doing that thing where basically, like, Sponge had said, if you're going to play 3 stand-ins, you don't deserve to be in Pro League. And then Khan's like...
Reasonable statement, by the way.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah. And then, obviously, they went and won all their fucking games. Like, it's just a classic, curse. And then obviously Khan.
It's like I would do. It's almost like Sponge really has assumed my mantle now.
I know,
the thing that was totally correct, but then context in the short terms made him look silly. And a moron fans going, yeah, you said they wouldn't. No, it's like, yeah, but my point still stands. So no, the sad thing is Sponge was totally right. He just looked stupid from the result, didn't he? Not thinking about that.
But here's the problem. Like, I'm just out on Fnatic now because it was like end of last year, start of this year. Smooya, the UK core, it's actually beating people. They're having real competitive games. Then, obviously, the way they handled the Smooya kick was outrageous. Like, it was just outrageously bad. And listen, if you're bringing in a player on like, for my understanding is as well, it was like, I think there'd just been an extension or whatever. I think they'd gone past the initial trial period. So it wasn't even like, the trial, it didn't work out. And then they get rid of him. That's a whole fucking mess. Then, obviously, like, COVID and all sorts of fucked up shit happens. Then it's like, what, you're just gonna sell your best player. And actually, here's what's really kind of fucking just pathetic about it. Like, full cuckoldry levels of pathetic. Like, oh, can I lick that up? Levels of pathetic, right? Like, they fucking were always gonna sell Brolan. They were never gonna fight to keep it. They fought to get more money. Right. But they were always going to sell him. It was basically to get another 100K or something. That's why they left him out. So for me, if someone says, I want to buy your player and you go, it's this much, and they come in and it's under that, you just go, listen, it's fine. I'll just keep the player.
Yeah, exactly.
So you missed.
Come back when you get the number.
Yeah. You could have literally just wrecked their IP. You could have gone, right, well, we're about going to Pro League and we're about going to the RMR, and if it qualifies, and if he plays for us in that cycle, you don't get your man. So you've got 24 hours. That's how I handle it. Because I want to keep the player. Yes. I want to keep the player, or I want to get his value. But instead, what they did is they were like, okay, well, we'll leave him out for you. Okay, we're not playing him in Pro League now. We'll leave him out for you. Fuck is this, man? Just so they could play him at a fucking later date. Who does that? You're benefiting your local rivals, essentially.
By the way, you're in the same group as them at Pro League. Holy shit. What sort of conflict of interest is that?
Well, don't even.
Tell you what, I'll leave him out the lineup when I play you. Guys, you are aware that's like this far from match fixing. Not because obviously it didn't happen as a conversation, but like that is essentially what the action you took was.
Yeah, I mean, at least they were doing it so they could, because there was a sale going through.
Obviously.
But like,
it's still stupid as fuck if you're a fan of their team.
Yeah, mate. Yeah,
I'm a fan of now.
Like I say, my read on it is it's just absolutely pathetic, just an insult. It's like you had a team that was promising. You had a team that was winning these like tier 2 tournaments. It won a trophy, that lineup. It took like a fucking DreamHack or something. And then it's like you're just gonna dismantle it. Then you're like just limping through Pro League, which you co-own with ESL and all your other stakeholders in that league, you're playing three stand. I've never seen three standings at a major tournament. Three standings, and you're trying to justify that as good management. Fnatic have absolutely they've shit the bed so hard. Like it's like there is no bed, there is only shit. Even the pillows are made of shit. It's mental. Like I've never seen you go from a promising position. They were like 52nd in the world when they put that team. Then they were back in the top 10. Now they're like 17th. And trust me, the only way is down. By the way, as well, they pushed all their chips in the middle and gone, Crims will be good forever. Brilliant. It's garbage. Like I'm so triggered by what's happened to Fnatic. They were on the cusp of doing something really cool.
Yeah, the thing I can't handle is just the fact that, like, it feels like they're just reacting to every move and they never have the fucking game plan. Because as we pointed out in the last episode, would you get rid of Smooya if you're already going to let Broland go? And if Broland's going and then Crims doesn't want to stay, then why are we getting rid of Smooya? You know what I mean? Like, to me, the whole thing's just such a fail. Like, it's like there were so many other options that were not quite as bad that could have gone a different route, but you've somehow gotten the worst of all worlds. And I don't know what is going on. Like, if I'm Alex, I would for real be taking some serious reflection on how your career has gone, because either you are genuinely just incredibly unlucky or you are playing some role in why these lineups just always end up fucking scuffed and people are in and out the door, and it never seems that you ever properly have the team and you get going. Like, mate, this has been 2 whole projects now, you know?
Yeah, but
You think it's nothing to do with it?
I'm just going to say it, man. I think he's like, you know how like sometimes good actors make dog shit films over and over again?
Tons of them, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like...
Sometimes if they even get to pick the films when they go shit.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they get a script and they read it and they conceptualize it in their mind, and then it's a terrible movie. Yes. And it's like, you know, some people, like... De Niro, I think, said it. He said the talent's in the choices, which, by the way, considering
his career is an incredible fucking statement. I don't think he had the self-awareness to know what that meant, but he's right. That is essentially his career summarized.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, like,
if you cherry pick best actor of all time, as soon as you do everything that comes across your table,
basically, once you get past 95, it's over. Basically, like you know, there's not a De Niro film worth talking about. Probably, his pivot to comedy just absolutely atrocious. But yeah. But anyway, Andy did Rocky and Bullwinkle, and parodied Taxi Driver in Rocky and Bullwinkle. Parodied his Are You Looking at Me? See? So anyway, whatever. You know, that's rock bottom. But you know, there's some truth in it, the talents and the choices. And I think that's what Alex has fucked up, like, consistently. Like walking away from Vitality when he did. Which, by the way, like, even when we interviewed him, he just said, like, he just had enough. He was stressed. You know, he couldn't handle the pressure and wasn't enjoying it, and he wanted to take some time out, and he didn't think he was going to come back. Then Cloud9, it's a risk, but it's something you can't turn down. Yeah, plus, also, spoiler, he got the bag and got to have a lot of input in the players that followed him there, you know, including, obviously, you know, people like Messi and stuff, right, who he's playing with now. And then after that, you're probably thinking, like, holy fuck. And then Fnatic come knocking and say, listen, we're going to support you, rebuilding the team, rebuilding the project. Like, obviously, our team's been, like, swirling down the pan for a while now. We're going to go an international lineup. You're going to get, you know, but Broland's going to be there. Crims is going to be there. And then, you know, we're going to bring you and Messi in and we'll all make it work. And so he goes, yeah, okay, sounds like a great deal on paper, but it's Fnatic, man. You got to know. They're an org that loves to just pull the fucking rug out from under you, like, all the time. Because it's like, I don't think they make a lot of money. I don't think they're particularly fiscally viable or whatever you want to say.
There's still a vibe like that around the scene, yeah.
Yeah, so...
I'll also say as well, the reason why this is so brutal is because, like, if people don't know, Messi is the most found fucking money I've seen in Counterstrike in years. Like, if people don't know, he is actually really good the whole time in this Fnatic team. Yep. Like, the guy that was a nobody, that, remember, this is where the Cloud9 shit was so stupid. Because if Henry had have fucked up, Messi would have been the fuck up, you idiots. He took a guy from tier 1 billion and put him straight in tier 1, except he made it. I noticed no one ever gives Henry credit for that, you know. No. That is one of the finds of, like, the last fucking 5 years. That's like,
and by the way, Western equivalent. And said, trust me, it's going to be 100% all the time.
Like, if you look, like, I know people don't watch the games, unfortunately, but if you go and watch how Messi plays in Fnatic, that's like the Western equivalent of finding people like Bit just out of nowhere. Like, what the fuck? This guy's just out there. Like, the guy is actually a really good piece. So it's like, if Alex ever kept his bloody star players, some of these projects could really have been good. They really had the promising pieces. Like, him and Messi is a good starting point. It's just the other pieces are always fucking changing.
So that's that. That's what we'll talk about. We'll get the viewer questions now and wrap up the show. A bit of a shorter one than last time, but still, pretty long. So obviously, if you give us £50, $50, can't remember which one it is.
Dollars, I assume.
Is it dollars? Yeah, it is
dollars, usually in that, I think.
Yeah, whatever. Change it to pounds. Sam, make it so. Switch it up to pounds. Fuck with them. But if you do, anyway, you can ask us a question. Can be about anything, and we'll do our best to answer it. Not many this time because we're doing all our shows like a speakeasy, but Orky said, when is the time travel land taking place? Can I still get tickets? Also, I'm super excited to see Zipnix with hair again. I'm sure he is too. Also, be super excited to see him being capable of playing Counterstrike again, which would be amazing. But actually, we are going to be recording the next wave of the time travel. Like, we might even get it finished in the next session. We're going to be doing the next session in the gap between ESL Pro League and whatever the next event is. We're going to try and make it work.
I assume, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've already got 2 episodes edited and ready to go. I've just been holding back, putting them out. And then the next session will take us past those episodes and we'll get right the way through to the end. But yeah, people seem to be liking the content. We're going to make the next episodes a bit more graphical because I think the guy that we had doing the graphics, he's just like moved house and is doing a new job. So there's been a bit of that. But yeah, we are going to do it. And nobody seriously asked where the time travel land was taking place this time. So that was a good thing. Echo asks, are hats allowed at time travel land? Strong uptake for time travel land questions.
Classic law.
Yeah. Hats allowed at time travel land. I feel whether they are or not might greatly impact on the performance of certain players. P.S. Corralho. So yeah, obviously,
we're actually at the point now, unironically, where we almost need like our own fucking Wikipedia with all the law of by the numbers. Like, there needs to be, like an entry, like on Smooyers. Obviously, it should also have a thing where it's like redirects from the Rat King. Like.
Rekovic asks, what food and accommodation are available to the players at time travel land?
Well, what we've done is we've got them direct time travel access to that gaming paradise, I think it was, because obviously that had the finest, like fucking hot cuisine or whatever.
Oh, it did. Yeah. What food and accommodation are available to the players at time travel land? Have you consulted with the CSPPA to fly them in first class only? No, we haven't. I don't know because you have to understand if it is
the CSPPA strong arm does a fictional tournament organizer. No, to be fair, by default, our deal with them would be historic, just by default.
Yeah, well, also, yeah.
We are open to working with the CSPPA, by the way. If they will pretend imaginarily to check out these monitors that we're not going to use because it's not a real LAN, then we'll make some sort of deal with them. Make it all above board.
Yeah, but I mean, the reality is as well. Like, I mean, old school lands, like you didn't get fed. What are you talking about? You didn't get fed. You fucking risked food poisoning with the rest of the plebs. That's just how it worked. So there is no food and accommodation because it's a throwback land. And the final question, and it's another time travel land question. I guess the time travel land content went over pretty well.
Yeah.
Didn't break any records for numbers though. Should have, but didn't. But whatever. And obviously, as I know, in all series, it's diminishing returns.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yeah. If you make a series, the first episode is always the highest. Sure. And then after that, you get a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less.
It's like the Overwatch League in a way.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Well,
there you go.
they're gonna change it now, Dunk.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Overwatch 2 now. So
of course,
fixed it. Marcus Kiumpa. Are there unlimited eggs at the time travel land? More importantly, what kind of eggs and how are they cooked?
Well, the thing is, obviously, you have to realise this is actually where we fucked up because you have to realise if we had have taken that money from the Savvy Gaming, fucking whatever it is, investment fund or whatever, if we had of, then we could have asked Face It and they could have told us the obvious answer, which is that they've learned you got to break a few eggs to make an omelette.
Indeed. And by eggs, they just mean people.
Yeah, exactly. Just civilians just running around a country, but not America. So who cares, right?
Yeah. But
I'm
yeah,
just basically waiting for Carmack to do that interview, like that guy from like what was it Apple or Google? The guy who just goes like the Uyghurs, like this is my line of like where I care, and then they're just like,
yeah.
I remember just thinking like, why is he saying this out loud? Like, holy shit, dude, it's on you're on camera right now, like, because that's almost like the world we live in, isn't it? It's like this is my line, and you're down here, so.
Yeah,
that was like some sort of mad avatar of like neoliberal, like late stage capitalism. Like, this is the nightmare world I have created. There, you're below my line of caring, so I'm going to press this button and blow your whole family up. Like, all right, sounds like. I mean, I guess. Yeah.
I saw Jack Dorsey was saying today that he's kind of sad that he helped contribute to the internet the way it is now.
Come on,
like I'm sad
no
as well.
shit. Yeah,
I'm
That's
sad that you wouldn't
leash.
Yeah, I'm sad that you wouldn't leash Twitter on the world. Yeah. Right. Just to
by the way, I used to once upon a time, even when I hated him because of what a twat he's been. That's the one thing I always used to give Slasher credit for. Like, he did get us all on Twitter. You know what, Richard? That's aged sort of badly now. In many ways, that's now his worst crime. We used to be, I thought we were jaded and bitter back then. We were actually fairly sort of happy-go-lucky, just sort of bouncing from one thing to another, keeping to ourselves, enjoying our lives, getting satisfaction at times from our job. And then I logged on Twitter. Been downhill ever since. What do you think? Twitter, not even what? Just get our faces. Take a picture of us before Twitter, like 2008 or whatever. Then just say Twitter, not even once. Just show us now, or reamed out. It's sad.
Yeah. I mean, we would
shut that account down, though. Don't worry, fans. I'll always be there. I'll never shut that shit down.
All right. Well, nothing to do with eggs, but it's an answer of sorts.
Yeah, it's an answer. Whatever.
Yeah. So we'll leave it there. So obviously, all that remains to be said is that was by the numbers. We'll be back probably, I don't know, whenever. I never know if these are going to clear in YouTube or not. So we've started putting the recording dates for you so you can see.
Oh, there you go.
Basically, like, this one took 3 days to clear for ads. The last one rather. So I don't know what this one will do or whatever, but we'll find out. So anyway, shout out to the sponsors, midnight.com. Be sure to go and sign up there with those guys. NordVPN as well. Go to nordvpn.com/RLS to sign up there. And of course, our patrons, $100 patrons, Carv, Cathal, Cred, Jerky's Minion, Marcus Kumpar, Michael Hewitt, Tobias Bernasconi, Will the Weed Wrangler, and our $50 patrons, Adam Ox, Alex C, Rama, Benakagi, Bren, BP420, Canapacito, CMAC1991, Echo, Fursock, Gern Kaya, Detlef Insomniac, Miss Alcoholic, Nolan, Reykjavik on Steam, Sardsawar, Satan, Shine, SLNXC, The Bitcoin Cash Podcast, Tim Frost, Lonnie, TRL, Watchdoge, Zumba, and Zarathenia. That was by the numbers. We'll be back soon. Until then, take care of yourselves. Bye.